5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. Lots to get to today. As you heard in the news, a 10-year sentence for the former Democratic mayor. I want to stress there's a D next to his name. I can't make it with my fingers, but if you look at the media coverage today, you would be hard-pressed to find the party affiliation of Ray Nagin. That's what they call media bias. He got sentenced to 10 years for his being found guilty in a corruption scandal in the city of New Orleans. So we'll talk a little bit more about that with the panel. We also have the Road to the White House continuing today, our series that is taking place all week in the middle hour. Today we'll take a look at the possible presidential candidacy of one Senator Rand Paul. And Larry Sabato, I'm very happy to say, will be here to discuss that possibility. And it should be very, very interesting. Also very, very interesting and disappointing, back to media bias, is the way they are covering the Israeli-Palestinian war, the war with Hamas, referring to Hamas as militants or soldiers, when in fact they are terrorists, because we recognize, we being the United States, recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. So does Israel, and so does most of the world. But yet, 9-1, the three major networks, according to the Media Research Center, have referred to Hamas as militants or fighters and not terrorists. What are you going to do? It is what it is. All right. I want us to watch Barack Obama, 2011. Then we'll get to former Congressman Tancredo. Watch.
But even though we've answered these concerns, I've got to say I suspect there's still going to be some who are trying to move the goalposts on us one more time. You know, they said we needed to triple the Border Patrol. Or now they're going to say we need to quadruple the Border Patrol. Or they'll want a higher fence. Maybe they'll need a moat. Maybe they want alligators in the moat.
All right, the president doing what he does best. That was back in 2011. Joining us now is former Congressman Tom Tancredo, Republican from the great state of Colorado, and of course, former presidential candidate and a long-time anti-amnesty advocate. And it's great to talk to you again, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to join you.
All right. So, I mean, you know, there was the president 3 years ago, and I don't know, maybe if he put in some of the things he claimed Republicans wanted him to do, we wouldn't be where we are. But we are where we are. And you wrote a very interesting piece that talks about how bizarre this could all get, that these illegals, these kids who are coming over the border, might actually one day join in some kind of class action lawsuit. I don't know if you were being fictitious here or not, but you made a great point, because there's probably a lot of reasons that they could form that and sue, and maybe even emerge victorious. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, it's only half joking, I suppose, in terms of what they're promised by the Obama administration in particular, and just what they believe will be the case in America, and what the reality might very well be for them. You know, if they're escaping violence and they end up in Chicago or New York or one of any of a dozen or so cities in the United States where violence is predominant in terms of the way the culture works out, they've really not escaped anything. If they're coming to escape poverty, the reality is that we have the highest number of people, youngsters especially, in poverty in the Western world, we're told. Much of that, of course, is the result that we do import our own poverty as a result of our particular immigration policy. We have the highest rate of incarceration of any place in the world, any country in the world. So, you know, it's perhaps not the nirvana that they are being told exists. Maybe they have a class action suit on their hands.
Well, you know, things could get that bizarre. Nothing would shock me anymore. But let's talk about what's going on today and what led up to today. The president going to Texas, of course, in Texas for a fundraiser, 3 fundraisers in 2 days. Turned down an invitation to come to the border, still will not go to the border. Turned down an invitation at first to meet with Rick Perry, then offered him a tarmac meeting, and now Perry's going to sit down at a meeting of the clergy and may get a one-on-one. What on earth is going through the president's head that he will not go to the border? Democrats joining Republicans in asking that question and urging him to go. How could he not go?
Right. Well, that's an excellent question. But when you're in the second of your when you're in the second term of your presidency, there's not a lot that you have to do in terms of even the politics of it. I mean, he recognizes fully well that he can do pretty much what he wants to do. If Congress won't go along with him, he can act unconstitutionally and sign a set of executive orders and force the bureaucracy into doing something that he wants. He also recognizes that going to the border would put him in a peculiar situation, in that he would be observing something that he would have to, on the one hand, decry because of the conditions, because of the fact that most of these people coming across are children and what's happening to them, and on the other hand, would have to take responsibility for, because he indeed is, and his policies and even his messages to South and Central America are the reason we see this happening. So it's a peculiar situation he just doesn't want to face, I would suppose.
And let me ask you a series of questions on this whole thing. First of all, do you think this is intentional, as Louis Gohmert told me and others have believed, that that this was the intent of this administration, and that's why they took out ads in January asking for escorts for illegal children to the tune of 60,000 children strong, that they knew this was going to happen and this is what the president wants? Or are you of the school of thought that says, no, the president's going to, this is bad for him and he's going to wind up sending these kids back? Because I don't buy the latter.
No, it's not going to happen. They're not going back. Understand that. I mean, please listen carefully, anybody out there who's paying attention. Just because he is saying he wants more judges and more people to devote themselves to the process of returning these folks, it will not happen. And here's why. When you enter into the country illegally and intend to make some claim, what doesn't matter what it is, that you can't go back for various reasons. Right. What you get usually is a letter telling you to come back, and in the vernacular, it's actually called a run letter, because that means when you get the letter, you run. Nobody ever comes back to have the hearing.
The hearing, right?
It doesn't matter how many judges you have. Nobody comes back for the hearing. You see, that's the point. And nobody gets deported even when they come back for the hearing, and even when they're ordered deported. It doesn't happen. So it's all typical. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's what he does so well. He dissembles. He is a master at this. And so here he is going to be able to take on this mantle of trying to solve this horrible problem. Please, Congress, give me the money and everything will be okay. Well, no, it won't be okay. None of these people will go back home, I will tell you. And yes, I believe entirely that this is engineered a phenomena. It is, well, first of all, just as Louis said, you have messages to Homeland Security. We have identified the communications to Homeland Security that tells them, get ready, this is going to happen, right? Somebody somehow knew about it. On the other hand, do you think that truthfully, all of a sudden one day, hundreds of thousands of people sort of amassed at various locations throughout South and Central America spontaneously and decided to trek northward and come through Mexico, which of course is that's a very difficult thing to do unless
Absolutely.
the Mexican government.
Yeah. Well, and it's as if you hear the left talking about the violence they're fleeing. It's as if the violence in these countries, these 3 countries in particular, all of a sudden have spiked, all of a sudden on a dime has gotten so intense that all these kids had to come over. And here's a question. This president who has selectively enforced and not enforced existing laws routinely on welfare reform, on the Affordable Care Act, on immigration? Why doesn't he just say if it's the Bush-era law that was designed to protect child smuggling that is hampering the effort to send them out of the country now, even though that wasn't the intent of that law, then why just say we're not going to enforce that law? He's done it before.
That's for sure. Or why not just sign an executive order saying all these people are to be returned, put them on buses or planes, send them back to the countries from which they came, and have the governments there take care of it. And you talk to your ambassador in each country, and you explain to them that this is what's going to happen, and you explain that you want them to tell the government, the host government, that this is what's going to occur, that they better get ready because the people are coming back. He could do that. He certainly has acted it unilaterally on more than one occasion. I would certainly say unconstitutionally. On more than one occasion, he has no qualms about it. It's because this, of course, is not part of the deal. The idea of sending them back, it will not happen. This is all part of a plan. I know how this sounds. I know how people immediately go, oh, there's a conspiracy theorist out there. No, look, it's not a conspiracy if he tells the world what he wants. If Obama says on numerous occasions, I intend to fundamentally transform America, and then he begins doing it, it's not a conspiracy. Right. This is absolutely part of that.
Congressman, great to talk to you,
Likewise,
sir. I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Former Congressman Tom Tancredo from the great state of Colorado. And, look, this is a president who is being taken to court by the Speaker of the House for violating the law, picking and choosing what laws he'll enforce and not enforce unilaterally, for overstepping his constitutional bounds. So why doesn't he do it on this? Why doesn't he say, I'm sending these kids back. Here's my executive order. I'm not going to enforce the Bush-era law because I decided it like he's decided on so many others. We'll talk about it with the panel when we come back right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belviq. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
The odds of becoming a successful NASCAR driver, 1 in 125 billion. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 68. I'm Jamie McMurray. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
What?
What were they thinking when they did that photo opportunity with the Colorado Governor Hickenlooper shooting pool and drinking beer.
You know, when I saw that, it just really floored me, because if he's saying he's too busy to go down to the border, but you have time to drink a beer, play pool, the optics, I mean, just the appearance means that he's not paying attention to this humanitarian crisis. If you ask, and I've talked to some of my border community leaders, they're very, very upset that he can drink a beer, he can play pool, but he doesn't have time to travel 242 miles from Austin down to the border.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The Malzberg panel in full swing. And joining us now is the host of the Christopher Hahn Show and former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer, Christopher Hahn, and the president of the Tripp Scott law firm, Edward Paswally. Hello, gentlemen. I want to ask you about what we just heard. And I know, Christopher, you came in a little late, but that was Senator Cuellar from Texas expressing kind of disgust with the fact that the president of the United States, who won't come to the border, has time to play pool and drink beer with the governor of the state of Colorado. Christopher, Andrea Mitchell, of all people, couldn't believe the optics and the mindset of something like that. What on earth is going on with this White House?
Well, I mean, look, the president has to be careful where he goes, and it doesn't matter. Look, conservatives are never going to like what he does. If he would have went to the border and he saw a family crossing the border, what was he going to do? Tell him to go home? He probably would have hugged this person after their long, arduous journey to escape, you know, intolerable conditions in their home countries. This president is a man of compassion, and I think that compassion has no place in the conservative movement anymore. Look what happened to Rick Perry when he showed a little compassion on the DREAM Act issue. I mean, I think that I don't think that the president could win here, no matter what he does. This president has deported more people than any other president since Grover Cleveland, and conservatives think he's soft on immigration. There's a real crisis at the border, and there needs to be action by Congress to address it, and Congress is unable to move. I want to see them act on the president's funding request, and I want to see them do it now.
All right. Well, first of all, Edward, this was a Democratic congressman. Andrea Mitchell is a Democratic liberal. Complaining and expressing shock over the beer drinking and the pool playing and not going down to the border. So what do you say about that?
We know when you lose Andrea Mitchell, boy, you lose your core constituency. I'll tell you that. I mean, there's good news for the president. Let's be honest about the good news. You know, the VA debacle and the IRS, my computer ate my homework, and you know, Benghazi and the release of the 5 Taliban all-stars, all that stuff is off the front page, and we're actually talking about whether the president should have played pool or not. You know, visuals are bad, but I guess it's all relative. I think the Obama White House would much rather be dealing with the perception of him playing pool while there's a crisis on the border right real near to him, rather than have to deal with the other scandals that have occurred the last 3 or 4 weeks.
By the way, Christopher, is it strange or out of the ordinary for the White House to call a Democratic congressman, if the president's a Democrat, as in this case? Congressman Cuellar said this morning that he's been called by the White House for speaking out against the Obama administration's handling of this whole crisis. He wouldn't say who called him, but he did say that he was told basically to pipe down. Is that acceptable behavior on the part of the White House?
I think the congressman's exaggerating.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Look, political aides will always call someone if they have issues with their bosses, and they'll try to find out what those issues are. If this congressman wants to make it more than it is, look, he's a congressman who lives in a district, who inhabits a district where it's not always going to be great for him to be with the president, whether he's a Democrat or not. So he's doing what he needs to do politically, and that's fine. That's the game that's played in Washington, played on both sides of the aisle.
All right, let me ask you, Edward. Chris made reference to the fact that the Congress needs to give the president his $3.75 or $4 billion for judges and more housing for these illegals. The fact of the matter is that they don't need more judges because these people don't show up for hearings. About 90% of them, once they're given their notice, they disappear and we never hear from them again.
Well, let's talk about why we have this problem now. It's a predictable problem. I mean, long ago, the president signed on with the amnesty groups, open border groups, and so what in rational thinking, what did he think would happen? So what we end up with is a crisis down there. It's something that was predictable based upon the policy, and so now what he's asking for is not $1 of true enforcement of trying to protect our national interest and slowing the immigration, illegal immigration down. We're not dealing with this on a foreign affairs standpoint. There are countries in Central America that there needs to be engagement. Instead of the president playing pool or warning the poor Democratic congressman who is upset with him about playing pool, probably got threatened with an IRS audit. But the bottom line of it is that they should be having conversations, and long ago, with foreign governments, of people who are now wanting to come up and make the long haul. Look, when you hold up a welcome sign at the border and you don't say cross at your own risk, you say welcome, come aboard, because we're going to give you everything under the sun and far better than wherever you were. You know what? There is something wrong about that. We have an obligation to the current citizens of these United States to protect our border from illegal immigration.
Right. Christopher, you believe in an open border policy?
I don't believe in an open border policy, but I think these people are escaping tyranny the same way my family escaped tyranny in Nazi Germany and fascist Italy.
Really? Ho, time out. Your family, these kids, wait, I got a question for you. These kids are the same as your family who escaped Nazi Germany?
Absolutely.
Really? They're being thrown in ovens? Really? Wow, that is amazing.
I don't know why the Malzbergs came here, but they're the same as your family. And what happens is we get here.
Hey, don't. You don't know anything about my family, okay? My family didn't come here to escape the Holocaust, so you're making a wrong assumption in the first place. But go ahead.
I don't know where your family came from.
Right. So you should shut up about it because you don't know. So go ahead.
Everybody came to America for the same reason, Steve, and that's for a better life. And these people are coming to America for the same reason countless generations who came before them.
No, you specifically said that they came here like the people escaping the Nazis. How dare you say something like that, Christopher?
Right now.
All right, we're coming back with the panel. Christopher Hahn and Edward Peswali. Don't go away.
Pat Boone here with a word about bank safety. Do you think your money is safe in the bank? Don't bank on it. A generation ago, bank accounts felt secure and they paid interest. This encouraged the virtue of thrift and saving. But today, bank accounts pay virtually nothing, and they've shifted from low risk to high risk. For example, did you know your money deposited in most U.S. banks could be subject to limited withdrawal and even confiscation? Oh, yes. And that's just the first of 19 risks explained in a new white paper entitled Don't Bank on It. You still think your bank deposits are safe? You better get this vital new Don't Bank on It white paper now. Call the number on the screen or visit SwissAmerica.com, the gold standard. Learn how simple it is to become your own banker today.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time to call for help. It's time for Leak Ender 2000. It fixes any leak and fixes it fast. No matter what kind of leak you have, just spray it with Leak Ender 2000. And in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll take this garden hose and cut it with a knife. Now we'll shut off the water, spray on Leak Ender 2000, and minutes later the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed completely. Here's the secret. Leak Ender 2000 is a specially formulated liquid rubber compound that completely fills any crack or separation as it hardens, sealing it tight. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leak Ender 2000 stops all those leaks with just a simple spray.
Leak Ender 2000 is great. I just spray it on and no more leak. I don't know what I would do without it.
Leaky appliances can drive you crazy, but just spray on Leak Ender 2000 and they're as good as new. And what about those foundation cracks? They let water in, even bugs. But Leak Ender 2000 can seal it up in no time. It can even fix air leaks. Just a quick spray and it's sealed up tight.
Leak Ender 2000 stops leaks in metal, wood, cement, brick, baked enamel, just about anything. Why spend a fortune on costly repairs and replacements? Just spray those leaks away with Leak Ender 2000. It's yours for only $14.95, and it's guaranteed to work or your money back. But wait, order now and we'll double your order at no extra charge. You'll get this huge giant-size can, good for hundreds of jobs, for only $14.95. So have your credit card ready and call now.
To order Leak Ender 2000, have your credit card ready and call toll-free. 1-800-873-2700 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to Leak Ender 2000, P.O. Box 1183, Cathedral City, California. Call 1-800-873-2700.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. The Israel-Gaza conflict continues claiming more lives. Israeli airstrikes targeting Hamas targets in Gaza killed at least 22 people today. Gaza militants are retaliating with rocket attacks, firing at civilian areas. Israeli leaders are preparing for a possible ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. And the increased attacks have further angered many Palestinians. Hundreds took to the streets in the West Bank in protest. Protesters angry with the Israeli strikes are calling for their leadership to take a harder stance against Israel. Violence between Israelis and Palestinians is at its highest since 2012. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, back with the Malzberg. All right, back with the Malzberg panel, ladies and gentlemen, whereas one thing is for certain, it's never boring. The host of the Christopher Hahn Show is with us, Christopher Hahn, and the president of the Tripp Scott law firm, Edward Pezwali. All right, let's focus on the Middle East. Christopher, we are here with the president of the United States, who, as Israel's being attacked by Hamas, is still supporting a unity government consisting of Hamas, financially and otherwise, and wrote an op-ed in an Israeli newspaper yesterday on the eve of the missile exchanges here, the attacks by Hamas and raining down on Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and Israel's retaliation and attempt to stifle those attacks, where the president says that Mahmoud Abbas is a true partner for peace. Again, maybe he should stick to playing pool and drinking beer.
Well, I've parted ways with the president on Israel many a time, and I'm parting ways on a lot of what you just said there. I am dubious on Hamas, on anything about Hamas. I don't believe that they have the best intentions in mind. I think Israel should be able to do whatever it has to do to defend itself, and that's where I stand on it. And I think that that's the right place to be right now. I think that we as Americans have to stand by our one true ally in the Middle East, and that is the state of Israel.
All right, Edward.
Well, look, we should stand by our true ally. I'm glad to hear Chris say that. I mean, to be honest, this is to hold Hamas up with the same moral equivalency as Israel is absolutely divergent from 40 years or 50 years or 60 years of American policy. And this president, again, this goes back to the same, we discussed the border issue. That was predictable, and this is almost as predictable. When you have the United States policy soften with respect to its support of Israel and begin to put Hamas and others like them in the region on the same moral equivalency as Israel, and you treat them the same, in fact, maybe you treat them even better, then you get this result. And the idea of putting, not mentioned, by the way, in the statement, Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't bestowed the
mentioned. He wasn't mentioned at all.
Or the great compliment of being calm and inside of the Obama editorial. I find that just fascinating and unbelievable.
Yeah. Hey, Christopher, first of all, I want to apologize for the last segment, and I'm doing this on my own volition totally. As much as I disagreed with you and about the Nazi analogy, I should not have said to shut up. You're my guest, and that was inappropriate.
Oh, Steve, come on.
No, I just want to go on the record. I just want to go on the record with that, again, on my own volition. But I do want to ask you about Hillary has lost 11 points in her approval since she undertook her book tour, and this is among Democratic primary voters, Quinnipiac. She have a problem?
No, she doesn't have a problem. Look, I think Hillary is going to be the nominee of the Democratic Party. I think she's going to be the president of the United States. And I don't see her getting any serious challenge from the left. There's been a lot of talk about maybe Elizabeth Warren or somebody else getting it on the left. I don't see that happening. I think that what you're going to have here, the only way she doesn't become the Democratic nominee is if she chooses not to seek the nomination. I don't think she's going to make the same mistakes she made in 2008. I think she's going to run a very hard campaign. She'll take anybody who challenges her very seriously, and I think she'll be the nominee, and she should be. I think she should be, and she'll be a great president of the United States.
I just hope that she could get the next mortgage without much trouble. That's all I hope. Hey, Christopher Hahn.
The third house mortgage might be a stretch.
All right, Christopher Hahn and Edward Pasquale, thank you both for being on the panel today. Appreciate it very much.
Guys.
All right, folks, we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. And of course, coming up right after this, we're going to have America's Moment, taking a look back at Operation Nickelgrass. But after that, we come back. We're going to have a very special interview that you're going to want to see, and it is with Caroline Glick, who's going to bring us up to date on the Middle East. Don't go away.
On October 6, 1973, while the nation of Israel observed Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year for Jews, the combined military forces of Egypt and Syria launched a simultaneous and surprise attack on Israel's southern and northern borders. Within days, the Israeli army found itself in retreat, losing a third of its equipment and outnumbered by the enemy 3-1.
He could not believe. He said, "We cannot stop them."
Recognizing their very existence was at stake, President Nixon moved quickly to resupply our ally Israel and their besieged army. With an around-the-clock airlift of U.S. military support, the tide of battle shifted, and soon the Israeli armies were advancing into both Syria and Egypt, with Israeli General Ariel Sharon's tanks threatening Egypt's Third Army with annihilation. The Soviet Union, who were supporting the Arab armies, quickly called upon President Nixon to stop the Israelis' advance or risk a larger war. The president intervened, saved the Egyptian army, and then used the opportunity to convince Egypt's President Anwar Sadat to seek a peaceful solution to a conflict that had plagued the region for decades.
I won this 55-inch TV for less than $30 on DealDash.com.
I got this $1,200 computer for $100.71.
These aren't actors, they're real people who got real savings at DealDash.com, the fair and honest bidding site.
On Deal Dash, I got this $349 mixer for less than $25.
iPads sell for as little as $5, laptops for $10, and professional cameras for as little as $20.
I won this iPhone for $8.48 at DealDash.com.
I got all this for less than $50 on DealDash.com.
Try Deal Dash today. If you don't win, get your money back. But hurry, everything must go. Go to DealDash.com now to start bidding.
In my first 4 months on Deal Dash, I won 104 auctions.
And shipping is always free.
Visit DealDash.com and start bidding today.
Attention parents and grandparents of young children. Have you received this special notice from Gerber Life? If not, you're urged to call this toll-free number now because Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable grow-up plan. It's easy to help your child get off to a good financial start for just pennies a day. Free information will be sent to parents and grandparents who call now. Or you can apply right now over the phone if you'd like. The Grow Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance protection now, then doubles automatically to $20,000 later at no extra cost. Later on, your child can buy more, up to $100,000 in total protection, regardless of their health or job, 10 times the original amount. The Grow Up Plan also builds cash value over time that you can borrow from later. Help give your child a head start for just pennies a day. Don't wait. Call now for free information.
Call 1-800-417-7939. Call now for your free information or go to growupplan.com now.
My name is J.D. Hayworth, and I'm employed as anchor analyst at Newsmax TV. As a free people, as Americans, there can be a unity of purpose, but it's not always unanimous. I believe what we have a chance to offer is a key choice. If you want a perspective, independent, American, original, free, it'll be here at Newsmax TV.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Yes, it was a conflict between just the U.S. and Hamas, and Abbas had no real kind of skin in the game because it was between these two parties, even though it was affecting the Palestinian people directly. But now he's part of a unity government and has some influence with Hamas now, wouldn't you say?
Well, we have no evidence that Hamas plays any role in the interim technocratic government.
All right, folks, that's the pathetic explanation of our State Department. And welcome back. Joining us now is my friend Caroline Glick, senior contributing editor to the Jerusalem Post. Also, she is the author of The Israeli Solution. And Caroline, welcome back. Also, I should point out the director of the Israeli Security Project at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Before we get to the State Department and the role of the U.S. and the position of the U.S., the latest from Israel, and of course the bombings continue on both sides. Are we headed for a ground war? The troops have been called up. Is it inevitable, do you believe?
Well, I think that it's probably inevitable that there's going to be some ground. There's going to be some part of this operation that's going to involve ground force, frankly, because we can't hit all the targets and destroy all of the targets that we need to in terms of Hamas's military infrastructure from the air alone. I think that it's going to be necessary to have ground forces in. You know, they've made great use of subterranean tunnels to try to infiltrate into Israeli territory. We saw a major operation down south along the border between the Israeli community of Kerem Shalom and Gaza yesterday, where they found 2 tunnels that were already entering into Israeli territory. So I think that even just from that operational perspective, we're going to have some ground component to this campaign. Yes.
How grave a concern are the longer range missiles that Hamas now has and is using?
Well, they're a grave concern because we have over half of the population of Israel that is constantly being forced to go into bomb shelters. You know, in Jerusalem, parents had to wake up their children in the middle of the night last night in order to bring them into bomb shelters. This is really unprecedented, and we've had similar situations now going on in Tel Aviv, where motorists on Israel's busiest highway have to get out of their cars and lie underneath their cars or along the sides of the highway, along the concrete barriers, because air raid sirens went off when they were trying to get home from work. So, I mean, these are situations that are impossible. The threat that it poses to Israel's strategic infrastructures, whether it's a civilian international airport in Tel Aviv or oil refineries or chemical plants or what have you, is large, and I don't think that they have the capacity to have. They don't have precision-guided missiles, to the best of my knowledge. But you know, all of these threats are significant, and as a consequence, it's fairly clear that we have to take the capacity to cause that kind of damage out of the hands of Hamas, which would use it to cause that damage if they have the ability to do so.
And of course, Benjamin Netanyahu has said that he would. There's been some split in the cabinet, or at least reported that some don't feel that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to go far enough. And that brings me to this. You know, watching the media, they're already keeping a count of supposed Palestinian deaths and children's deaths from the Israeli bombings. I heard Erin Burnett. I was watching her yesterday, and she had the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. on, and he talked about what was going on, and she said, yeah, but notwithstanding that, is it worth bombing those missile launchers and rockets in the Gaza if it kills a child? And this is what Israel is up against, and I say that, as you well know, they're up against it. Always have been, always will be. But I ask it because, does Israel have the stomach to go in, finish off Hamas one way or another, as they have the capability to do? But of course, civilians will die. I mean, they didn't do it with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Are they going to do it with Hamas because of the threat I mean, how can a country live the way Israel's living with the threat of rockets and the rockets themselves falling?
Look, I mean, I think that it's important to keep things in perspective, because even if we were to go in there full force and we brought in divisions and we conquered Gaza, we're not going to be staying in Gaza. We don't have a national interest at this point in continued control over Gaza. And we have to understand a couple of things. One is that there is no better alternative to Hamas. They're all basically the same. I mean, Mahmoud Abbas, who we heard at the beginning of the clip, the United States praising, his Fatah militias in Gaza are active participants in these missile attacks against Israel. You have 3 different Fatah militia that are directly affiliated and under the control of Mahmoud Abbas, who have bragged, who have boasted that they have shot dozens and dozens of rockets and missiles into Israel, claiming that they hit the, quote, settlements of the cities of Ashkelon and Sderot. So, you know, he is an active participant in this battle. Fatah itself is posting on its website and on its Facebook page posters and slogans saying that Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and Fatah are one. They have one God and one goal: to destroy Israel. So, you know, it's important to bear this in mind. There is no actor that's going to be replacing Hamas. If Israel were to destroy Hamas, it would be better than Hamas. We have a situation, Steve, that we've been facing now for over a generation. In fact, since Israel was established, in fact, since the dawn of modern Zionism, which is that we have a region where Jew hatred is so ubiquitous, it's so overwhelming, that everybody knows that they can gain currency on the Islamic street by attacking the Jews. This is why Saddam Hussein attacked Israel with Scuds in the middle of the Persian Gulf War in 1980 to 1991. This is why Hezbollah strikes and continues to fight wars against Israel that it knows it will never win. They do this because this is how they expand their political leverage and power in the Arab world. And they're able to do this because they operate in an international environment characterized by the morally depraved statements by people like State Department officials like Maria Harf and Jen Psaki, who claim that there's some sort of an equivalence on a moral plane or a legal plane between Israel and a legal terrorist organization. All of these things together, the profound hatred of Judaism and Jewish people that is overwhelming in the Arab world, the Islamic world, together with the sympathy and support that these views find among Western countries, whether it's the European Union or U.S. officials for that matter, makes it so that there's never going to be peace. We're never going to find somebody to take over these areas that's not going to want to attack Israel, that's not going to believe that it's in his interest to attack Israel whenever he has the means to do so. And so, unfortunately, it's not clear to me that Israel has a means to achieve a long-standing victory here. I think that what the goal has to be is to destroy as much as possible their ability to harm Israel. The aspiration to do so from a tactical and strategic perspective is going to remain as long as the profound Jew hatred in the region and the sympathy for Jew hatred in the international community in the West remains as it is today. Unfortunately, this is the situation, and there are no good options for Israel except to continue pounding them at every opportunity and deny them the ability to conduct the kind of attacks that they've been doing.
Let me ask you, Caroline, the president on the eve of this puts an op-ed in one of the Israeli newspapers praising Mahmoud Abbas, and you just laid out brilliantly the role of Abbas and Fatah in all of this attacks on Israel, praising Abbas, not even mentioning Benjamin Netanyahu. And what's more, of course, the government of the United States is still supporting, even though Hamas is lobbing rockets into Israel today, still supporting the unity government, which includes Hamas. How is that possible?
Well, I mean, you have to look at it in a couple of ways. This government, this administration in Washington, the Obama administration, led by President Obama, has been profoundly unfriendly and hostile indeed to Israel since he was inaugurated into office in January of 2009. So there's no surprise that Obama is treating America's most important ally in the region, Israel, and its elected government, led by Prime Minister Netanyahu, with such contempt and hatred. Having said that, you know, we have to understand that what they are doing in continuing to fund the Palestinian Authority and that incredible statement by the spokesperson for the State Department that there's no evidence that Hamas is a member of the Palestinian government is not only preposterous, but it beggars belief, because there's no way that you can say that this is a government, what they call of national reconciliation, that is sponsored by Fatah and Hamas, that are partners in this government and in supporting and backing this government. They put in straw men to take cabinet positions, but they are like marionettes that are completely owned and operated by Hamas terror masters. And the White House knows this, and the State Department knows this. The reason why they're lying in such a profound and obnoxious way is because they know that it is an open breach of standing U.S. statute, not of the spirit of the law, but of the letter of the law, for the United States to be passing 1 red cent to the Palestinian Authority today, now that it is a government that involves a designated foreign terrorist organization.
So in other words, Caroline, we're up against the clock. They're trying to talk their way out of it and make it right. Listen, Caroline, great to talk to you. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Caroline Glick, ladies and gentlemen. Give Me 5 is next on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Any flashlight can throw a beam, but not even this floodlight is bright enough to light up a room. Now there's the Torchlight from Bell & Howell, the high-tech portable light that's really big on brightness. Look, ordinary flashlights just have a narrow beam, but the Torchlight has a brighter, wider beam that brilliantly lights up the entire room. Even when the power goes out, you won't be left in the dark because its 28 ultra-bright LEDs give you over 100,000 hours of bright, reliable light. It's like having nature's own sunlight at your fingertips. Its high-powered magnetic base lets you securely attach it to any metal surface to give you a steady, bright light that brilliantly lights up your entire work area. It's like having an extra pair of hands. It's so powerful it can lift up to 2.5 pounds. And with its bright light, there's no easier way to quickly pick up dropped nails and screws. And look, the Torchlight is also a flashlight. Its 5 white LEDs give you a clear, bright light to easily see wherever you go. The sturdy base keeps the Torchlight in place exactly where you want it. And the articulating arm has 6 preset positions that let you tilt the light an incredible 180 degrees to give you total lighting coverage. Use it at your computer, as a table lamp, or to light up those dark, unlit areas. Better yet, with the built-in hook, you can hang it anywhere and rotate it 360 degrees to give you light wherever you need it. While its rugged construction makes it impact resistant and weatherproof too. And now the Bell & Howell Torchlight is yours for just $10. But wait, call now and we'll double your order. That's 2 for the price of 1. Just pay separate processing and handling. Order your Torchlight now.
To order your Torchlight and receive a second one free, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-936-0400. That's 1-800-936-0400.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
To find out more, call 800-263-4151. That's 800-263-4151.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him opening his own clothing store at the age of 18? 1 in 138,000. Excited to be a part of pop culture, he packed for the big city. The odds of finding someone to invest in his vision? 1 in 4.5 million. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Bipartisan accord on, if I can say that, in these days, is that a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle think it is imperative that the president visit the border. And it is not just Republicans. On this program yesterday, Representative Raul Grijalva, of course from Arizona, said the borderlands deserve a presidential visit. It is important to reaffirm the president's interests. It's vital and important to the borderland interests are vital and important to the nation. Why is the president not visiting the border?
That is a very good question. We've been asking it all show so far. We asked it yesterday, and I'm sure we'll be asking it when it's over, unless he surprises everybody and visits the border. Welcome to Give Me Five. That's Alex Wagner. She's addressing that question to Cecilia Munoz, Director of White House Domestic Policy Council. And here's some of what she had to say.
So what the border situation needs is full attention of all across the administration from the president on down. That's what's been happening since June 1st when the president asked DHS to appoint the FEMA administrator to coordinate the effort all across the federal government. We have DHS, we have HHS, we have the Department of Defense, we have the Department of Justice, all engaged in the process of dealing with the border situation, surging resources, and providing appropriate facilities for those kids.
All right, that's not the question. And by the way, I have a problem with people who answer a question by starting with "so." And it's not the only time she does it in the interview. You'll see that. Very strange. But anyway, wasn't the answer to the question. The question is, why won't the President of the United States go down and see firsthand with his own eyes what is happening at the border? What is happening to the children who are crossing the border? Telling me about other agencies or telling Alex Wagner is not the answer to the question. Maybe she'll answer it now.
Secretary Johnson has been to the border 5 times in the last month. I accompanied him on one of those occasions.
Can
He's
I
going
just interrupt you,
time on
Cecilia?
Friday.
And we are well aware of the cabinet members who have visited the border. The White House weeks ago designated this as a humanitarian crisis. The president visits crises all over this country. Why is he not going to the border to look at this one?
The president is very, very focused on this urgent humanitarian situation. He's meeting in Texas with people who are trying to be part of the solution. He's engaged the whole of the federal government. He sent his vice president to Central America. In fact, Secretary Johnson is in Guatemala today dealing with the situation. The whole government is involved in this situation at the border, in Central America, in Mexico, and around the country where we have facilities for these kids. This is a whole of government effort from the president on down.
Yeah, except she's described a bunch of people on down who have been to the border, a bunch of agencies on down that are involved at the border, but she still hasn't answered the question. And to her credit, on MSNBC, Alex Wagner, wanted to know again and again, why hasn't the president gone to the border? She just won't answer the question. Here's more.
So do you expect that there will be no blowback, that the president will be in the state of Texas at a fundraiser, meeting with the governor to talk about the situation, and refuses to go to the actual place where the crisis is happening?
So here's what we need, what we expect from the president and the government is that we be engaged in what's going to be most impactful and most effective in dealing with this situation. That's what's been going on since it became clear that the situation was on the scale that it is. The important thing here is that we've involved the whole of government from the very beginning, that we have multiple agencies of the cabinet engaged at the highest levels, that the president is fully aware and on top of the situation.
All right, she said situation 4 times in that answer, and she started it with "so." Again, that's twice. She just won't answer the question. Here's one more from the director of the White House Domestic Policy Council.
And that we are using all the resources that we have to be effective in providing a deterrent and making sure that we are managing children's cases effectively, guarding their humanitarian concerns while being sure to remove those who are removable and sending a clear message to those in Central America. That's why it's important that we have the Department of Justice and the Defense Department providing facilities for these kids. This is a comprehensive effort from the president on down. Our job is to make sure that we're being effective and impactful. That's why the president sent a supplemental supplemental request for appropriations to the Congress today, and we're going to continue to be focused on this as an urgent humanitarian situation as long as it takes to get it under control.
So, did she answer the question? No. Do we know why the president won't go to the border? No. Is it disinterest? Is it I'm above it all? Is it I don't have to do anything I don't want to do? I don't know. You decide on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling down stairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stairlifts has a solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stairlift, the world's leader in stairlifts. That's right. Don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stairlifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn Stairlift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs again.
And our Acorn Stairlift was very affordable.
Our Acorn Stairlift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn Stairlift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn Stairlift if there's something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
And I'm the king of my own castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stairlifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stairlift directly to the staircase, in most cases in 2 hours or less, with no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn Stairlift.
Don't risk a serious fall down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little they cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stairlifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with an Acorn Stairlift.
Call 1-800-514-1402 for your free information kit. That number again is 1-800-514-1402. Or visit our website today.
Call now.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Senior government officials told senators they're struggling to keep up with the growing surge of immigrant children in a hearing today. Most of the children are crossing into the U.S. from Central America, feeding violence in the region. New estimates say 50,000 children have crossed the border since last October. Republican critics say this is a result of the administration's failure to secure the border. And an insurgent attack in Afghanistan killed 6 people in Kandahar. 11 insurgents in bomb vests tried to take over the governor's compound in the city. The attack began when one of the attackers blew up his car. The blast killed 4 civilians and 2 police officers. Afghan police and security forces were able to kill all 11 insurgents. And the National Weather Service confirmed a tornado destroyed several homes and damaged numerous others in upstate New York today. 4 people were killed in the storm. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo visited the devastation, calling it a tragic loss of life. Thousands of New Yorkers remain without power. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, it's hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show, and joining us in just a moment is our friend Ralph Peters, Fox News strategic analyst. He'll be here to weigh in on what's going on with Israel, Hamas, Iraq, and the crisis at the border. I'm very interested to hear his take on all of those. And then we'll be joined by the chairman and chief executive of a Dubai-based organization. And he is the longest continually serving American official in Iraq. He acted as a special assistant to 5 U.S. ambassadors. And he will be here to talk about his column in the Washington Post, Why We Stuck with Maliki and Lost Iraq. Then, the road to the White House. It's our weekly feature, and today we take a look at the possible presidential candidacy of Senator Rand Paul. Dr. Larry Sabato, director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics, he will be here. All that, gimme 5, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away.
5,
4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Whether to take action against Syria, whether or not you have a congressional resolution approved, is a strike needed in order to preserve your credibility for when you set these sort of red lines? And were you able to enlist the support of the Prime Minister here for support in Syria?
Let me unpack the question. First of all, I didn't set a red line. The world set a red line.
Ah, remember that oldie but goodie. Joining us now is our friend Ralph Peters. Hey, Ralph, how are you, sir?
Well, I think I'm having a more successful life than President Obama at this point.
I like that. It's a sad statement in a way, but it's very true. Can we start with the border? I'm sure you're probably aware by now that the president, who will not come down to the border, despite calls from Democrats and Republicans alike, nonetheless found time to have a photo op playing pool and drinking beer with the governor of Colorado. This is our commander-in-chief. Could you tell me what you think when you see that?
Well, he's desperate. I mean, because the governor of Colorado has been ducking out on him, doesn't want to meet him. So Obama wanted that photo op for political purposes. But look, in the military, back when I was an enlisted man in the 70s, there was an acronym, ROAD, which we pronounced ROAD, and it meant retired on active duty. In other words, it was some old soldier still in uniform, but just wasn't going to do a lick of work. And our president's retired on active duty. It seems like he's not interested in governing anymore. He's not interested in the work of being president. He just sort of, kind of likes the perks, tooling around in Air Force One. It says, the ultimate Cadillac, and it's just sad. I mean, here's a guy. The world is in flames. Our border is in collapse. The economy's not recovering. Washington is rife with scandals, and the president just isn't there. He's just not there.
Yeah, that's interesting. ROAD, I should say, and or you might even call him AWOL if that's appropriate. But let me ask you about the border. What should we do? I mean, is the border securable? I mean, I can't imagine that the answer is no if we really wanted it secure. Correct, Ralph?
Well, any border can be secured. It depends on how tough you want to be. And we're soft-hearted people, Americans, and we don't want to be tough. Now, the answer, by the way, is not a wall everywhere because, for instance, in the Texas part, it's the Rio Grande Valley. Do you put the wall on our side of the river and give it all to the Mexicans? Do you try to put a wall in the middle of the river? I mean, there's some real physical problems as well as jurisdictional problems with a wall. Now, walls work in some areas. Southern California, they're great. They're helpful in Arizona. I'm not at all against walls, but there's no easy answer. And it's more difficult now because we've established a precedent going way back of giving amnesty to people. And not only that, the Democrats now desperately want to give all these illegal immigrants the vote. I mean, they don't really care about the well-being of these immigrants. They see votes. And, if they can get, 10 or 12 million new voters out of illegal immigrants, addict them to welfare payments, people will continue to vote to be given what they've been given. And I think that's a Democratic strategy in all this. But the sad thing for our country is, while we are a nation of immigrants, we hopefully will remain a nation of immigrants, law matters. We get to pick who comes. It's our country. And Nancy Pelosi's nonsense about, we're all Americans in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, that's absolutely nonsense. You can't just open the border to everybody from outside. It's just absolute silliness. But the Democrats definitely want to stonewall until they got not permanent residency. We're not going to march everybody back. I can understand legal residency and right to work and pay taxes, etc. But my rule is that no one who entered this country illegally should ever be able to decide who is our president, who is a senator, who is a congressman. So all, you can give them all the legal rights of being here except the vote. And we have many categories of residents besides full citizenship. And my bottom line is this, Steve. When somebody breaks into your house, you are not obliged to put them on the deed.
Yeah, very good analogy. Very good analogy. Let's move to the Middle East and
You moved to the Middle East.
Well, I'll call it a war because I don't know. I mean, when one country fires hundreds of rockets at the major cities of another country and the other country tries to eradicate that with airstrikes, to me, that's a war. Yet you look at the media and it's like on the brink of war. Will there be war? To them, war is only if you send in ground troops. You correct me if I'm wrong or tell me, but let me ask you, does Israel have the stomach and or the capability, which I think they do have the latter, to eradicate the Hamas threat once and for all?
They have the capability. I don't think they have the stomach. Because to eradicate the Hamas threat, you've got to kill a lot of people. I mean, that's, when you're dealing with fanatics, there's no rehabilitation process. There's no reverse gear. And, the scenario is always the same. Israel goes in, hits hard, the world community gangs up on Israel and defends the terrorists, and Israel pulls back, and Hamas rebuilds, or Hezbollah rebuilds. It's just unfortunate. And I was on Fox and Friends this morning discussing this. The global media is overwhelmingly left. The left just hates Israel. I mean, it hates Israel for a number of reasons, not least because Israel proved that, you know what, if you're not lazy and you work hard, you can build a country from scratch. And despite all the oil money they poured into the Middle East, the Arab countries are all total wrecks. Israel is an island of civilization in a sea of barbarism, and it explodes all the left-wing academic theories of underdevelopment, how imperialist oppressors, neo-imperialists keep them down, blah, blah, blah. But also, being anti-Israel is a new socially acceptable version of anti-Semitism. You're not allowed to say in public that, I don't like Jews. But you can say, Israel's despicable. Israel's a fascist state. I mean, it's the same old stuff. It's the stuff Hitler was peddling in the 1920s and 30s.
And it's, Zionism, distinguishing that between that and Judaism and falling back on that as an anti-Semitic cushion as well. You're absolutely right.
And Steve, I've been saying the same thing for many years. The fundamental difference between Israel and its neighbors is that Israel wants to live in peace with its neighbors. Its neighbors want to destroy Israel. What is so hard to understand about that equation?
Yeah, very, very true. Let me jump over now to Iraq and the situation there with ISIS. And it seems, again, once it's off the front pages, it's very hard to follow exactly what is taking place there. So let me ask you, has it died down? Is it just remained just as big a threat? Does it all play in together? What's going on with Hamas? And, is it all part of this? And is ISIS going to be able to exploit what Hamas is doing now from the Gaza Strip in any way?
Well, yes, the latter. I mean, it all ties in. Certainly it all ties in. It's all radical Islam on the march. And, it's, as you know very well, our media can only handle one international headline at a time. So Russia and Ukraine has disappeared from the headlines. Now ISIS, which was hot last week, has given way to the story of Israel and Hamas. But ISIS is currently consolidating their gains. The Shia, the Iraqi Shia and the Baghdad government are never going to be able to take back what the Sunni Arab, Sunni Muslim IS, used to be called ISIS, now it's just IS, Islamic State, has already seized. And so, Steve, we are seeing before our eyes the establishment of the world's first terrorist state, this caliphate state spanning much of Syria and Iraq under the Islamic State and the self-declared Caliph Ibrahim, formerly known as Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, formerly head of former ISIS. Now, there have been, obviously, states before that sponsored terror, that condoned terror, that committed terrorist acts themselves. But we've never before seen a top-to-bottom terrorist state. And that's shaping up to be President Obama's real legacy. And, I've been scratching my head and saying, for a long time, I say, can't this guy see it? Can't he see the danger? Why doesn't he do anything? And, I think at this point, playing amateur psychologist, Obama, his presidency has failed so badly and so comprehensively that he is obsessed with keeping that campaign promise that he was going to end our wars and bring the troops home. And as a result, I think he wouldn't allow the military to try to rescue our people in Benghazi because he didn't want to be seen as militarizing the situation. He's got Kerry and others trying to persuade the Iraqis to stay together, and Iraq is over. It's done. It's not coming back together. It ain't going to happen. And we're backing Nouri al-Maliki, the corrupt, vicious Shia strongman in Baghdad, who's largely responsible for the collapse of Western Iraq. I mean, it's just nutty, but Obama just doesn't want to do anything militarily because he wants to be able to claim that he kept his promise to his base. And as a result, he is letting the world just burn. And, Ralph Peters' strategic maxim number 41 is that when America is strong, the world complains. But when America is weak, the world suffers.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. Ralph, it's always great to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so very much.
Great speaking with you, Steve. Thank you.
Ralph Peters, ladies and gentlemen, Fox News strategic analyst, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel, best-selling author, and he's right. He's right on target. I love his analysis of the situations that we discussed. I love the ROAD, which I must admit I was not familiar with. Retired on active duty, as a way to describe the president and his term, and not going to the border in Mexico, but deciding to play pool. See, here's the thing. You don't want to go to the border. If you want to make that an issue, if you want to ignore Democratic calls and Republican calls and media calls and everybody else calling for it, and you want to stick to that, that's one thing. That would almost be a normal response. But when you then play pool and drink beer and bring the cameras in to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm not going to your stinking border. This is what I'm doing. There's something wrong going on there. Really problems on the Steve Malzberg Show.
Meet Jill. She thought she'd feel better after seeing her doctor. And she might have if not for Kari, the identity thief who stole Jill's social security number to open credit cards, destroying Jill's credit and her dream of retirement. Every year, millions of Americans just like you learn that a little personal information in the wrong hands could wreak havoc on your life. This is identity theft, and no one helps stop it better than LifeLock. LifeLock offers the most comprehensive identity theft protection available. If Jill had LifeLock's protection, she may have been notified before it was too late. LifeLock's credit notification service is on the job 24/7. As soon as they detect a threat to your identity within their network, they will alert you, protecting you before the damage is done. And LifeLock offers the proactive protection of checking and savings account takeover alerts. LifeLock's comprehensive identity theft protection guards your social security number, your money, your credit, even the equity in your home.
Doesn't matter how old you are or how much money you have. Identity thieves steal from everyone. You have to protect yourself. I protect myself with LifeLock.
While identity theft can't be completely stopped, no one protects you better than LifeLock. And LifeLock stands behind their protection with the power of their $1 million service guarantee. You have so much to protect and nothing to lose when you call LifeLock right now and try 60 days of identity theft protection risk-free. 60 days risk-free. Use promo code ONGUARD. Order now and get this document shredder to keep sensitive documents out of the wrong hands. A $29 value, free.
Call 1-800-966-8458 or go to lifelock.com/onguard to try 60 days of LifeLock identity theft protection risk-free and get a document shredder free. Call 1-800-966-8458 right now.
Mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 58 years old.
This disease just ravages a family.
It changes your life. If we work together, we can stop this epidemic. Now is the moment.
Contact Bright Focus and learn more.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
The American combat mission in Iraq has ended. Operation Iraqi Freedom is over.
At the same desk where his predecessor announced the beginning, President Barack Obama declared an end to U.S. combat operations in Iraq. Earlier, the president met with soldiers at Fort Bliss, Texas, a base which lost 51 soldiers in Iraq. Mr. Obama told the troops responsibility now lies with the Iraqi people, a point he reiterated later.
In the end, only Iraqis can resolve their differences and police their streets.
And that was Barack Obama back in 2011. Joining us now is Ali Qadari, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Dubai-based Dragoman Partners. He's also the longest continually serving official in Iraq, where he acted as a special assistant to 5 U.S. ambassadors and as a senior advisor to 3 heads of U.S. Central Command. Ali, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Okay, you wrote a piece for the Washington Post talking about why we stuck with the man we stuck with, Maliki, and why we lost Iraq. Why did we stick with him?
It's a great question. One, frankly, that should be directed to the White House. But at the time, Vice President Biden and others who were in charge of Iraq policy felt that Maliki was a reliable partner for the United States in Iraq, and one who would fend off the Iranians, and one who would allow U.S. troops to remain in Iraq past 2011. Unfortunately, it seems that those judgments have proven to be incorrect.
Well, yeah, that's pretty obvious. Now, do you see this as the central reason for where we are today in Iraq, I presume? What about the ancillary issues such as Syria and such as Mideast policy overall, and do you believe that, and not reaching a SOFA with Iraq, which many blame Obama for insisting that he go through that Maliki go through the parliament, which was basically unprecedented in demanding what the procedure would be for an agreement on a SOFA. How much do you blame Obama for those other things, as well as sticking with Maliki?
Well, I think you raise an excellent point, which is the fact that in the Middle East today, as has always been the case, all of the issues are interconnected and interrelated. And so what happens in Iraq affects what happens in Iran, affects what happens in Syria, in Lebanon, in the Gulf countries, etc. And I think, frankly, the United States' failure in addressing some of these existential problems that are in Syria, for example, the Syrian civil war, the turbulence in Iraq, I think that failure of leadership and that vacuum has contributed to the situation that we're seeing now in Iraq. And frankly, the fact that that the White House continues to lobby Congress to expedite F-16 Apache attack helicopter and Hellfire missile sales for Maliki's government, despite the fact that there are very clear indications that Maliki's government is complicit in aiding Assad in committing genocide in Syria, that only will further contribute to the instability across the Middle East and only harm American national security interests, because this genocide in Syria and Maliki's campaign of ethnic cleansing across Iraq will only help Al-Qaeda and ISIS in their recruitment campaigns, which means it will only assist in more fighters potentially plotting another 9/11 against the United States.
Ali, what makes this administration think that the Iraqi army, or whatever you want to call it, would be qualified to fly those planes, keep those planes, or helicopters, or sophisticated equipment, when we've already seen them abandon the American equipment we've sent them, and many of those tanks and equipment are now, as you alluded to, in Syria?
It's a great question, and again, I frankly refer you to the White House for a response.
You know, it's funny though. I keep calling up President Obama, and he doesn't return my calls.
I mean, if I can share with your viewers, when I was advising Ambassador Crocker and General Petraeus during the surge, at the end of the surge, the United States government donated 5,000 Humvees to Iraq at a cost of about $2.5 billion. Many of those, hundreds of those potentially, of those Humvees, armored Humvees, are now in ISIS's hands, being used in Syria by al-Qaeda elements. It's a disaster, and that's why we cannot allow F-16s and Apaches and thousands of missiles in the hands of a government that is aligned with Iran and with Assad.
Several people, Ralph Peters, General Michael Hayden, they've told us, they've told me that Iraq is gone. The Iraq we know or knew is not coming back. And what do you think of, I mean, do you see a future where there's a Sunnistan and a Shiistan and a Kurdistan?
Unfortunately, I agree with General Hayden and others that Iraq, as we have known it, is almost certainly dead. Since 2003, since the start of the war, I helped advise on the formation of 5 Iraqi governments during that time and what the U.S. position should be. And it's my experience, based on knowing the Iraqi leaders personally, that there is no going back after what we've seen over the past several years, after Prime Minister Maliki's gross negligence in handling state affairs and purging all of his political enemies. The leaders at this point don't want to work with each other. They don't want to live with each other. And so I agree with the assessments of some of your other guests that it is almost certainly the case that Iraq is likely to fragment along ethno-sectarian lines, that you'll have a Shiistan in the south, a Sunnistan in the center, and a Kurdistan in the north.
And I'm sorry, we got less than a minute, so I just want to ask you real quick, what about a caliphate? What about this ISIS caliphate that they want to form? They've declared a state, as a matter of fact, already. Is that going to be a reality?
I think, frankly, that's almost a non-event. It's more of a public relations coup by these radicals. I think what's really very little understood right now in the West is the fact that out of the 5 or 6 million Sunni Arab Iraqis fighting Prime Minister Maliki's government, only about 5 to 10% of those fighters are ISIS. About another 20% are hardcore Ba'athist, former regime elements of Saddam Hussein, and the other 60 or 70% are just normal day-to-day people, Sunni tribal members who are tired of being oppressed by Prime Minister Maliki's government and his Iranian backers. They don't have any jobs. They haven't had jobs for years. They don't have electricity. They don't have water, and they're tired of being oppressed by this government in Baghdad.
All right, not a pretty picture, but thank you for sharing with us, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again. Ali Qaderi, nice to talk to you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right, folks, very complicated situation, and again, something that's been placed on the back burner right now because of what's happening between Israel and Hamas, what's happening on the border, you name it. The scandals seem to rotate, the priority of the stories seem to rotate, but we'll keep you abreast of them all.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. And I know there are many myths out there about a reverse mortgage, so I want you to know the facts. There are currently no credit score or income requirements to qualify. You can get tax-free money from the equity in your home. You can use the money to pay off your current mortgage if you have one. The remaining money can be used for anything. There's no monthly mortgage payments, and you still own your home. Call today to get your free guide and DVD. It explains how a government-insured reverse mortgage works. There's no obligation. One Reverse Mortgage is a Quicken Loans company. Their licensed experts can answer all your questions. Call to find out what a great solution this can be. Don't wait. Call now.
Call 800-924-9033 to get your free quote. And when you call now, you'll also get a free lighted magnifier. Call 800-924-9033.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belvique. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Violence between Israel and Gaza could soon reach even higher levels. Israel's Minister for Intelligence and Strategic Affairs says he believes Gaza will have to be recaptured. Hamas militants in Gaza have fired more than 160 rockets at Israel in recent weeks. Up to Israeli 40,000 troops are unauthorized for potential invasion. And the conflict is raising concerns throughout the region. Arab League Chief Nabil El-Arbi is calling for an emergency session at the United Nations Security Council to discuss a resolution. The official contends Israel's actions have been very aggressive. He calls the revenge killing of a Palestinian teenager as an act of the Middle Ages. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
What it appears is that this is an administration where events are controlling them. I can't remember the last time I feel like that they controlled a set of events. It feels like, and the answer is the same, whether it was VA, whether it was the healthcare debacle, whether it was ISIS in Iraq, whether it's which is, boy, this all came up on us faster than we expected. We've had our eye on this, but boy, we didn't expect it to be this bad, or we didn't expect it to be this quick, or we didn't expect it to be this substantial. So, look, I think the last months have painted a picture of an administration that looks like they're struggling to run the government, that they're struggling, that they are going from crisis to crisis.
All right, folks, that's quite an indictment from Chuck Todd on this administration, and it's so true. It is so true. Does it show? Is it weakness that the president is showing? No, it's not even weakness. It's a lack of interest. It's a lack of caring. It's who's running the ship. How does this administration get surprised by everything that takes place? That's their claim. Nobody's in charge. That's what this administration has become. No one's in charge. And you know what? For a president who goes around constantly saying, I have a pen and I have a phone, well, what he should do here, if the impediment to sending these kids back, and the president claims he wants to send them back, can't send them back because of the Bush-era law, which was for the benefit to prevent trafficking from these Central American countries of young children. So it's being misapplied here. So what the president should say is, just like he's ordered ICE not to deport this group, not to deport that group, just like he's ordered the Affordable Care Act, he's ordered extensions on deadlines, just as he's weakened the work provision of welfare reform, unilaterally against the Constitution, in my opinion. All the president should do now is say, we're not going to enforce the law Bush signed. That was meant to protect kids who are, and go against child trafficking. That was the spirit of that law. It's being applied now, and it's not being applied in the spirit of the law. So I'm declaring now that law will no longer be enforced. He's done it before in a million other laws, but he won't do it because he doesn't want to send them back. He wants them to stay right here. Right here is where he wants them. And right here is where they're going to stay. I believe that, and other experts have also weighed in with a very similar opinion. That's just my opinion. All right, now, when we come back, you know that all week we've been doing this special, and it's going to continue through this week and into next week, I'm very happy to say, the road to the White House. Each day we take another prospective Republican presidential candidate, and today we focus on Senator Rand Paul, who's been a frequent guest on this show, I'm very happy to say, and we're going to talk to Larry Sabato about the chances that Rand Paul might have, what some impediments might be to his candidacy, where he stands in some of the various polls that have come out. And of course, Rand Paul generating a lot of excitement. He is not announced, but I do have a feeling that he will announce. I'm more sure of him than some of the others we've discussed, such as Mike Huckabee. So we're coming back with that. Don't go away. The road to the White House is next, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television. But first,
hello, I'm back this week with this very important question. Is your doctor taking your blood pressure correctly? You may assume so, but a new study shows you may be wrong. According to this new research, doctors often cut corners when taking blood pressure and record readings that may be much too high. This is important information. First, if your blood pressure reading is wrong, you could be misdiagnosed with high blood pressure and put on powerful drugs for the rest of your life. You could also be denied health insurance, and your job may even be put in jeopardy. This is important information, so pay close attention. Number one, is your doctor using the right size blood pressure cuff? Cuffs come in two different sizes, average and large, but too often only the average size cuff is even used, even on the person with a larger forearm. If the cuff is too tight, the reading will be too high. Number two, is your blood pressure taken in both of your arms? Doctors are taught that this is not mandatory, but it should be. Even a small difference between the two pressure readings can mean you are at great risk of suffering from a stroke or even dying of heart disease. And number three, is your blood pressure taken when you are seated on the examining table with your legs dangling in the air? If so, your reading may be 10 points too high. You should be seated in the chair with your feet on the floor and your legs apart and relaxed. Don't cross your legs at either the knees or the ankles. Remember, if your doctor doesn't take your blood pressure the correct way, you could be putting your health at risk. Many of you already have my book, The Simple Heart Cure. So if you do, you can read all about high blood pressure in Chapter 8. That's my health tip for this week. I'll see you next week with another important Heart Health Minute.
Get your copy of Dr. Crandall's best-selling book, The Simple Heart Cure, for just $4.95 with this special offer. Go to www.simpleheartbook.com to get your copy today. That's simpleheartbook.com.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
Well, I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me. You take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
The land of the free honors the bravest of the brave for their sacred pledge to protect our freedoms, our Constitution, and our way of life. We will always remember you. We will always salute you.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Well, you know, I want to be part of making the Republican Party big enough that we're the dominant party, that our ideas win elections, and that we can start to grow this country again. We have so much pent-up capital in this country and ability to create jobs, but it's all afraid of its government now, or it's going overseas. You got Pfizer and other companies thinking about going overseas because the taxes are too high here. It's a sad state of affairs when we say, you know what, Canada has a lower corporate income tax. Canada has half the corporate income tax we have in America. That's a sad state of affairs.
All right, folks, so welcome to the road to the White House. Each day this week in this time period, we take a look at another possible GOP presidential candidate. On Monday, it was Ben Carson. Yesterday, it was Governor Mike Huckabee. And today, it's Rand Paul. And there he was making, I guess, if not his most recent, one of his most recent appearances on this very show. And joining us once again, I'm very happy to say, always love to talk to the great Dr. Larry Sabato, the director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics. Hello, Doctor.
Hey, how are you, Steve?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it on this special segment of ours here. You know, I just mentioned that we did Ben Carson, discussed his possible candidacy, and Governor Mike Huckabee earlier in the week. I'd have to say, out of the three, including Rand Paul, I think Rand Paul is certainly the most likely, at least in my opinion, I'd love to hear your take, to actually eventually declare that he will be running. What do you think?
Yes, I think that's true. You can't predict Carson or Huckabee for sure, but Rand Paul is giving every sign of wanting to run. His problem is he can't run for re-election under current law to his Senate seat in Kentucky, but some of his allies may try to change that before 2016.
Right, and then what you're talking about is if he elects to run, then he would have to give up the Senate seat and not be able to run for that. If he loses, then he's out in the cold. I wonder. You know, he once there was a piece on him, a cover story in Newsmax, the magazine, a few months back, and in it he said that he told his wife when he ran for the U.S. Senate, "Don't worry, I have no chance of winning." I said, if that's the kind of predictor you are, you might be in trouble. If he runs for the Republican nomination, the way things are today, tell me what you think his chances are of winning.
Well, he'd be a serious candidate. He would have an unusual coalition, Steve, in that some of his positions are currently considered outside the Republican mainstream. Now, you never know who's going to be elected delegate in all these states, and we'll see what happens. But he has, I'm not going to call it an isolationist foreign policy, but he is certainly less eager than most Republicans, and indeed the Republican platform, to see American military strength projected abroad. Now, that attracts a lot of libertarian Republicans to Paul. He's also given some other libertarian hints about positions that he may have that other Republican candidates don't. But I think it'll be a very interesting campaign if he decides to do it. Also, remember, he's been reaching out to minorities, which there ought not to be any controversy about in the Republican Party. If that party is going to win the presidency, it's going to have to do much better with Hispanics and Asians in particular.
Yeah, let's put up a list of some of the obstacles that Rand Paul might face. You alluded to certainly a very serious one, which is an obstacle, but it's also makes for a very interesting coalition. You know, we had the cartoonist Ted Rall, who I spoke with a little earlier, and he said that Rand Paul is the first and only Republican he's ever considered voting for if he does run for president, because he loves the libertarian streak within him. So it would be an interesting coalition. But first and foremost, he would have to win, you know, the Republican primary. So when you're talking about establishment Republicans, who traditionally certainly are strong on defense, are not isolationists to the extent that Rand Paul is, as you also brought up, how much of a albatross is that around his neck in actually trying to get the nomination?
It's a big albatross. Now, it's always possible in the Iowa caucuses, you could have a large infusion of libertarian Republicans showing up, and they might give him a larger percentage than expected. What's hard for me to believe is that once you narrow the field down to 2 or 3, that he would be able to put a large enough coalition together to actually get the nomination. But stranger things have happened. Whoever thought Jimmy Carter would be nominated?
Yeah, well, yeah, stranger things have certainly happened. That's for sure. How about his father? Very controversial in many respects with his stances in the Middle East, with respect to U.S. intervention around the world. Just in that respect, he's a little similar to his son. But is his father, who has a huge following, by the way, the former congressman, is he a help or a hindrance, do you believe?
Ron Paul helps his son Rand Paul in fundraising and in the energy of the volunteers that would be needed to run a presidential campaign through the caucuses and primaries. The downside is that Rand Paul has got to be able to create a very separate identity from his father for not just the Republican Party itself, but for the general electorate. You know, Ron Paul, you know, has his strengths, and certainly you admire somebody who's as outspoken as he is. I don't think he filters anything through political consultants, but he's not the sort who can win a general election. He has proved that several times. His followers sometimes ignore the percentage of the vote that he actually got in many of those primaries and caucuses. It wasn't all that impressive.
Well, let's take a look at a Quinnipiac poll. I think this is the last one done, head-to-head matchups, fantasy matchups, if you will, between Hillary Clinton and some of the Republican possible contenders. And Rand Paul weighed in with 40% against Hillary's 49%. It's up there on the screen. Again, way too early to tell. They all basically were weighed in within 1 or 2 points of each other. Rand Paul, Jeb Bush, Paul Ryan, Mike Huckabee, and Chris Christie. Against the Hillary, you know, you talk about comments made by Rand Paul with the media being what it is could really prove to be troublesome as well. Because, I mean, let's just take, for instance, the civil rights remark where he said he supports 90% of the Civil Rights Act and he took it back. Again, I know how the media could twist and turn words around, but he does speak his mind. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. He is more, I guess, reined in than his dad, but nonetheless, will his comments and his policy stances, his remarks about Bill Clinton being a sexual predator, will those remarks come back to haunt him in a general election?
Well, they'll help with the Republican base for the most part, but you're absolutely right. For a general election, he'll have to walk some of those back. And more importantly, he's going to have to convince the general electorate, if he gets there, that he has the kind of temperament and he has the kind of restraint that people like to see in a president. They don't always get that in a president, but I think basically we like to see that in a president. So that will be a problem, but that one's a solvable problem if he gets the Republican nomination. He's going to have to come up with a strategy that can not win over the internationalists, because he'll never do that, but neutralize them to a certain degree.
And yeah, no, that's so right. But, you know, it strikes me when you talk about the tone and the demeanor of a candidate and is he presidential? I got to tell you, notwithstanding some of the things he said, and I like him, I've never seen him lose his temper. I've never asked him a question or seen him ask a question and then respond where he's lost his temper. He doesn't raise his voice. He's very level. He's very even-tempered, very, I won't say monotone. He gets, there's emotion in what he says, but he doesn't lose his cool. I've never seen him lose his cool. So I think he's kind of mastered that end of it.
Yeah, that's a plus. There's no question about it. He knows how to avoid rising to the bait, whether it's opponents' bait or the media's bait, whatever. So yes, you want someone like that as your nominee, but at the same time, you have to consider a nominee as a package of views, of personality, of background, of character. And this is going to be a very competitive race for the Republican nomination. I think we're going to have a big field.
Money-wise and otherwise, if he's going to get in, I guess no different than most, when would you advise someone like Rand Paul, if he was going to get in, to actually get in?
It's less a question of when you formally announce. It's more a question of when you start to spend virtually full time raising money, going out on the stump, reaching out. Now, Paul has been very active. I mean, he's clearly done quite a bit already, but he would have to focus almost completely on the presidential race.
Yeah. Doctor, always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very, very much for participating in this.
Happy to talk, Steve, as always. Take care now.
Thank you. Dr. Larry Sabato, U2, Director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics. Tomorrow, the road to the White House will continue, and we're going to take an in-depth look at the possible presidential candidacy of one former Governor Jeb Bush. Right now, I'll tell you, Give Me Five is next, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.
Eligible for Medicare, that's a good thing. But it doesn't cover everything. Only about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. So consider an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call today to request a free decision guide to help you better understand what Medicare is all about and which AARP Medicare supplement plan works best for you. With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. There's a range of plans to choose from too, and they all travel with you, anywhere in the country. Join the millions who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations, and provided by United Healthcare Insurance Company, which has over 30 years of experience behind it. Call today. Remember, Medicare supplement insurance helps cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay. Expenses that could really add up. These kinds of plans could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose any doctor who accepts Medicare patients, and there are virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. With all the good years ahead, look for the experience and commitment to go the distance with you. Call now to request your free decision guide. This easy-to-understand guide will answer some of your questions and help you find the AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
At 69, I'm starting a whole new chapter in my life.
Lifestyle Lift, a life-changing procedure that helps remove wrinkles, frown lines, and sagging skin on your face and neck.
I have a younger look and a new look on life.
Look, almost 200,000 lives changed. Lifestyle Lift is the affordable way to looking years younger.
Nothing's better than a Lifestyle Lift.
Don't miss your chance for your free skin firming treatment. Call now because this amazing offer ends soon.
Every time I see somebody, you look so good. You just never age. I go, oh, thank you for that. You know.
Would you feel good looking younger and more attractive?
I haven't felt this good in years.
My name is Cindy. I'm 56, but nobody needs to know.
Don't miss your chance for your free skin firming treatment. Call now because this amazing offer ends soon.
Call now, 800-599-0771.
Don't regret looking older than you feel.
Life can hit you with the unexpected. Forcing you to make difficult decisions. Leaving you feeling helpless. You don't have to lose your home. It's time to take control. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling can help. The NFCC is a nonprofit organization that has been providing quality financial counseling and education for 60 years. Our national network of community-based member agencies have helped millions of consumers with foreclosure prevention. Seek advice from our certified housing counselors today. Call us or visit mortgagehelpnow.org. Real solutions for real people.
As long as 60 years ago, when I first started to read newspapers, I read of floods on the Yellow River and the Yangtze. Well, who rushed in with men and money to help? The Americans did, that's who. They have helped control floods on the Nile, the Amazon, the Ganges, and the Niger. Today, the rich bottomland of the Mississippi is underwater, and no foreign land has sent $1 to help.
All right, folks, that was 41 years ago. Welcome to Give Me Five. Canadian radio newsman Gordon Sinclair read a tribute to the greatness of the United States of America. And it made such an impression that when he passed away, Ronald Reagan even referred back to it and lauded him for doing what he did and saying what he said. Maybe Barack Obama should be listening to this. Here's more.
Germany, Japan, and to a lesser extent Britain and Italy were lifted out of the debris of war by the Americans, who poured in billions of dollars and forgave other billions in debts. None of those countries is today paying even the interest on its remaining debts to the United States. When the franc was in danger of collapsing in 1956, it was the Americans who propped it up, and their reward was to be insulted and swindled on the streets of Paris. And I was there. I saw that.
I love it. I love the passion. And now he talks about, again, whenever there's a problem around the world, a natural disaster, who comes running?
When distant cities are hit by earthquake, it's the United States that hurries in to help. Managua, Nicaragua, is one of the most recent examples. So far this spring, 59 American communities have been flattened by tornadoes. Nobody has helped. The Marshall Plan, the Truman Policy, all pump billions upon billions of dollars into discouraged countries. And now newspapers in those countries are writing about the decadent, warmongering Americans.
And he's talking about the fact that economically we were suffering, the erosion of the dollar, and here he specifically addresses that and how the world, in his view, was cheering.
I'd like to see just one of those countries that is gloating over the erosion of the United States dollar build its own airplanes. Come on now, you, let's hear it. Does any country in the world have a plane to equal the Boeing Jumbo Jet, the Lockheed TriStar, or the Douglas 10? If so, why don't they fly them? Why do all international lines except Russia fly American planes? Why does no other land on Earth even consider putting a man or a woman on the moon? You talk about Japanese technocracy and you get radios. You talk about German technocracy and you get automobiles. You talk about American technocracy and you find men on the moon, not once but several times, and safely home again.
That's right. And now he talks about what the United States will do when they get out of the financial mess they're in.
You talk about scandals, and the Americans put theirs right in the store window for everybody to look at. Even the draft dodgers are not pursued and hounded. They're right here on our streets in Toronto. Most of them, unless they're breaking Canadian laws, are getting American dollars from Ma and Pa at home to spend up here. When the Americans get out of this bind, as they will, who could blame them if they said to hell with the rest of the world?
But of course, we did not do that. We have never done that, much to the chagrin of some people. And finally, and remember, we're listening to a Canadian radio newsman, Gordon Sinclair, Canadian, 41 years ago. And here's his final piece.
I can name to you 5,000 times when the Americans raced to the help of other people in trouble. Can you name to me even one time when someone else raced to the Americans in trouble? I don't think there was outside help even during the San Francisco earthquake. Our neighbors have faced it alone, and I'm one Canadian who is damn tired of hearing them kicked around. They'll come out of this thing with their flag high, and when they do, they're entitled to thumb their noses at the lands that are gloating over their present troubles.
Wow. Gordon Sinclair. And I got to tell you, I really do believe that many on the left, many so-called progressives and liberals, but progressives mostly, need to watch this and get educated on the Steve Malzberg Show.
I've always seen No-No on TV, and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No-No from Radiancy, the #1 hair removal system in the world.
It's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, how it's almost hair-free.
No-No gives you no hair with no pain.
Well, I saw it on TV and they said it was painless, right? I didn't really believe it, but now that I'm trying it, it feels completely painless.
And now, No-No is better than ever. Introducing the new No-No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
No more facial hair. No more embarrassment.
I've always been self-conscious of my hairline, so putting my hair back, this will be perfect for me.
And for that man in your life, there's No-No for him too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Call now and we'll send you the cordless No-No Pro in your choice of colors. Featuring an LCD display, it comes with up to 5 treatment levels. Plus, we'll include everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. A set of Thermicon tips, specially designed for your face and body. A buffer pad to exfoliate and polish your skin. Plus, act now and we'll send you the No-No travel case as a free gift. And get this, you can try No-No risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If you are not 100% satisfied, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No-No risk-free today.
I need to get myself one of these right now. Absolutely.
For your 60-day trial, go to nonopro.com or call 1-800-934-5335. That's 1-800-934-5335.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. President Obama's plan to visit Texas today does not include visiting the U.S.-Mexican border. Instead, the president will meet with Texas Governor Rick Perry and other leaders in Dallas to discuss the immigration crisis. The leaders are to discuss the recent surge of Central American immigrants, including tens and thousands of unaccompanied children at the border. Obama has referred to the situation as a humanitarian crisis. He is asking Congress for $3.7 billion to address the issue. Senior government officials told senators today that they are struggling to keep up with the growing surge of immigrant children. Most of the children crossing into the U.S. are from Central America countries such as Honduras and Guatemala. New estimates say 57,000 children have crossed the border since last October. Republican critics say this is a result of the administration's failure to secure the border. And tempers flared at the immigration hearing when Arizona Senator John McCain slammed U.S. officials. McCain says U.S. Customs and Border Protection administrators are prohibiting members of Congress from doing their job.
I view that as a violation of my responsibilities. I want it fixed, and I want it fixed immediately. Understand? You have overstepped your responsibilities and your authority, sir.
And a new report by the White House Office of Management and Budget says federal government improperly paid out about $100 billion last year. These include Medicare fees, tax credits, unemployment insurance, Social Security, and other programs. Congressional investigators say this number could be even higher. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
All right, folks, welcome to the third hour and final hour of the Wednesday edition of the Steve Malzberg Show. We hope to be joined momentarily by Congressman Steve King, Republican from the great state of Iowa, a member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Border Security. Gee, what are we going to talk about with him? Then the Malzberg panel, once again, host of the Christopher Hahn Show. Christopher Hahn will be here, and also the president of the Tripp Scott Law Firm will join us as well. Ted Rall, liberal columnist, syndicated political cartoonist, and author. We're going to talk about everything from the border crisis to Iraq, but he believes that progressives should leave the Democratic Party. That's right. We'll see if that'll ever happen. All that, Gimme 5, and more on this hour of the Steve Malzberg Show.
Ready? Fire away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. And as mentioned, we are in the process of waiting to speak with Congressman Steve King on a bunch of issues. Of course, the president, in case you haven't heard, and we've talked about it on this show, but the president who will not go to the Mexican border because I'm the president and I don't have to do anything I don't want to do, even though Democrats as well as Republicans have requested that he go. The president had a photo op today in Colorado with the governor of Colorado playing pool and drinking beer. Now, I got to tell you, yesterday on this show, during the panel, Rick Unger of Steele and Unger was on the panel, and we were discussing whether or not the president should go to the border. And he said, look, you know, he's the president. I'm sure he has a schedule. And I said, wait a minute. Yeah, of course he has a schedule. He's going to be at 3 fundraisers in Texas. Of course he has a schedule. You brought up the schedule. I say he's probably got better things to do, like play basketball or watch, you know, the free agent market in the NBA or something else. And he said, are you saying the president is going to play basketball? I said, I don't know. You brought up his schedule, Rick. I don't know. So we went at it back and forth, and who knew that I would be so correct? All right, he didn't play basketball, but he had the nerve. I mean, what do you call it? Do you call it insensitivity? Do you call it in your face? Do you call it chutzpah? Do you call it arrogance? What would you call it? I'd love to know what one would call it when you say, I'm not going to the border. I will not go to the border. So you make it a point to show people you're playing pool and having a beer? I don't know. I mean, it's got to be one of the aforementioned. One of those adjectives or one of the terms I threw out there has to be applicable, right? Maybe they're all applicable. Maybe it's chutzpah and arrogance and insensitivity and everything else. But you know who we're going to find out from? Let's forget the video and let's go right to Congressman Steve King. Hello, Congressman, sir.
Hello, how are you doing up there, Steve?
So good to talk to you again. It's been too long. So here I am describing and trying to reach for the right label for a president who says to people from his own party and the opposition party, I will not go to the border. I will not look at this humanitarian crisis. I have no interest in it, but makes it a point to have a photo op playing pool and drinking beer. What do you say about a president who does that?
Oh, my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
It's bad
with the governor of Colorado.
The image of the president is playing golf, and the closest the beer summit when he gets himself in a bind, but not playing pool and shooting pool and drinking beer when there's a humanitarian crisis on the border that he has caused and brought out. I don't know what we call that, Steve, but as I watch this, piece after piece of this, it's getting harder and harder to explain these things away as being just mistakes made by a president. The more the pattern comes together, the more it looks like it could be willful. And I don't have any doubt that he is the guy that's opened up this border. They have advertised down in Central America, Mexico and Central America. The fact of it is this, that if you can get into America and you don't commit a felony, this president will not deport you. That is, we've gone from sanctuary cities to sanctuary states. Now we are a sanctuary nation. And the humanitarian crisis that he's brought about is that. And I believe now that he is poised to extend this unconstitutional DACA position that allows for people to stay in America illegally until he should decide that they should go. He's never going to decide that they go. If he extends this age group, it was those who were in the country before they were 18 and before December 31st of 2011. If he extends that, he's essentially granted amnesty to everybody that's not a felon, and he is poised to do that, in my opinion. This president we cannot presume that the Constitution means anything to him except an inconvenience. Neither does the law mean anything to him except an inconvenience.
Let me ask you about this request for what was first reported a few days ago is $2 billion. Now it's up to about $4 billion. And if it goes through, which you'll tell me if you think it will, and if you would support it, it's going to be repetitive. This hiring of judges and building of facilities, isn't that just a waste of time? Because once these people come across illegally or given their letter of to come back or whatever it's called, they disappear. So what good are more judges and more facilities?
Well, that pays off the Malzberg and the La Raza attorneys and the president's base that are a bunch of lawyers that have been working for a long time to advocate for illegal aliens and opening our borders.
So you see it as a payoff?
I do.
And what are the prospects of the House approving this request?
I think the prospects are very slim that will happen. I took it from our leadership's presentation this morning that they believed that we needed some kind of resources to go in there to address the humanitarian crisis and that we needed to work to do something in the next couple of weeks. But the pushback that came from the microphone, including from me, was exactly the opposite. This is a presidential caused crisis. He has the resources to solve the problem. If he's not going to close that border, then I'm calling upon the border governors to call up their National Guard, order their National Guard to the border. They're the commanders-in-chief of their National Guard. Seal the border. And this president's not going to. Think what 2.5 years of President Obama's sanctuary nation turns into. It won't be any longer the question of whether we can deport 11 million people. It will be tens of millions more, and the question will be how many billion people can we let into the United States under the circumstances that he has. And I say that term billion, I didn't just pull it out of the air. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and over half of them would like to be in America.
Absolutely. Let me just get a little clarity on what you said. You weren't unclear. My ears were unclear. And that is that leadership, you believe leadership wanted to give the president, if not all the money, some of the money?
Well, they didn't come to an amount, but it was an indication that they think that we need to address this humanitarian crisis and that there was some resources with some type of provisions or conditions that might be attached.
Would that be offset conditions or new money?
They did not take a position on that, and I think at a minimum it'd have to be offset. Of course, the president wants new money. That would be borrowed from the Chinese, of course. That's the situation we're in, Steve. And when you have leadership and they're listening to one side of this argument, here's something that has shifted the politics in D.C., in Washington, D.C., and that is that we all went home over the 4th of July break for 2 weekends and a week in between. We did parades, we got out there, and everywhere we went, people would step up and say, seal the border, stop the bleeding at the border. The only way you can cure this is first you've got to seal the border. And I'm convinced this president won't. In his $3.7 billion, there is nothing in there that will seal the border. Nothing. There might be a little bit of a camp or a place where they can house some of these illegals, but most of this goes to, I'll just say, feckless spending for judges and attorneys. And think of this president who believes apparently that you know, everybody in America has some kind of a right to rent subsidy, heat subsidy, an Obama phone, an Obamacare health insurance policy that you own, paid for by the taxpayers, and now everybody has to have their own lawyer. That's how bad this is getting with this president. Meanwhile, our border security people, and we're spending a number greater than $7 million a mile on our southern border. We're building new interstate highway through Iowa cornfields, by the way, buying the right-of-way and building the interstate, finishing it all for right at $4 million a mile. We're spending $7 million or more on our southern border to guard it, and we're getting something less than 25% efficiency down there.
Yeah.
We could build an interstate for 2,000 miles down there every year and have money left over, and then the Border Patrol could drive their Humvees back and forth on the interstate, at least, in a nice, convenient way, and guard the border.
Congressman, let me ask you about this Bush-era law that was signed and that was designed to protect or to discourage child trafficking from these Central American countries. They're now citing this, the administration is, as one of the reasons, or if not the reason, why these kids can't be sent back immediately. That's not how that law was intended. Now, two things here. One, will the House vote to repeal that law? And two, isn't this a president who routinely decides which parts of laws he'll enforce and won't enforce, and has done so over and over with immigration laws specifically? So can he just, true to form, just say we're not going to enforce that law anymore?
Well, under the president's standards, the answer to that is yes. I do think that Congress needs to adhere to the Constitution and the letter and the rule of law.
Well, did that come up today, sir, about repealing that Bush-era law?
It was alluded to, but it wasn't discussed in very much depth. But I will tell you that over the last 3 weeks, Steve, I've been putting together the language to do that. And the conditions are this, that in that bill, which the human trafficking bill, was really generated by Dianne Feinstein out of California. And it passed through the House and the Senate on voice vote with little or no debate. Nobody really examined it. It was pushed through when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker in 2008. And it sets up a program with contiguous countries to accept their unaccompanied minors back. And that has been negotiated with Mexico, and that's working pretty good with Mexico, and as you know. But the non-contiguous countries, there is no such provision. So the bill I've drafted sets up the similar provisions that exist in the bill for Mexico for the non-contiguous countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and others. I put that into the congressional record last night as I gave a floor speech for about, I'd say 40 minutes, and I put it into the congressional record, but I did not file the bill because I'm afraid that if we send that bill over, if we pass it in the House, send it to the Senate will attach the Gang of Eight on it as an amendment and send it back to us.
Yeah. Congressman, yeah, it's a shame that's a fear, but it's probably a legitimate concern. Great to talk to you again, sir, and about a terribly horrific situation. We'll speak to you again soon, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, and I just encourage those governors, call up your own National Guard.
Yeah.
That's the only way to fix it, Steve.
Gotcha. Congressman Steve King calling for border governors to call up their own National Guard, send them to the border right here on the Steve Malzberg Show. The panel is next, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling down stairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stairlifts has a solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stairlift, the world's leader in stairlifts. That's right. Don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stairlifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn Stairlift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs again.
And our Acorn Stairlift was very affordable.
Our Acorn Stairlift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn Stairlift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn Stairlift if there's something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
And I'm the king of my own castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stairlifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stairlift directly to the staircase, in most cases in 2 hours or less, with no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn stair lift.
Don't risk a serious fall down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little they cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stair Lifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with an Acorn stair lift.
Call 1-800-514-1402 for your free information kit. That number again is 1-800-514-1402. Or visit our website today.
Call now.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion. Now, here is Steve Malzberg.
What?
What were they thinking when they did that photo opportunity with the Colorado Governor Hickenlooper shooting pool and drinking beer?
You know, when I saw that, it just really floored me, because if he's saying he's too busy to go down to the border, but you have time to drink a beer, play pool, the optics, I mean, just the appearance means that he's not paying attention to this humanitarian crisis. If you ask, and I've talked to some of my border community leaders, they're very, very upset that he can drink the beer, he can play pool, but he doesn't have time to travel 242 miles from Austin down to the border.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The Malzberg panel in full swing. And joining us now is the host of the Christopher Hahn Show and former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer, Christopher Hahn, and the president of the Tripp Scott law firm, Edward Paswally. Hello, gentlemen. I want to ask you about what we just heard. And I know, Christopher, you came in a little late, but that was Senator Cuellar from Texas expressing kind of disgust with the fact that the president of the United States, who won't come to the border, has time to play pool and drink beer with the governor of the state of Colorado. Christopher, Andrea Mitchell, of all people, couldn't believe the optics and the mindset of something like that. What on earth is going on with this White House?
Well, I mean, look, the president has to be careful where he goes, and it doesn't matter. Look, conservatives are never going to like what he does. If he would have went to the border and he saw a family crossing the border, what was he going to do? Tell them to go home? He probably would have hugged this person after their long, arduous journey to escape, intolerable conditions in their home countries. This president is a man of compassion, and I think that compassion has no place in the conservative movement anymore. Look what happened to Rick Perry when he showed a little compassion on the DREAM Act issue. I think that I don't think that the president could win here, no matter what he does. This president has deported more people than any other president since Grover Cleveland, and conservatives think he's soft on immigration. There's a real crisis at the border, and there needs to be action by Congress to address it, and Congress is unable to move. I want to see them act on the president's funding request, and I want to see them do it now. All
right. Well, first of all, Edward, this was a Democratic congressman. Andrea Mitchell is a Democratic liberal, complaining and expressing shock over the beer drinking and the pool playing and not going down to the border. So what do you say about that?
But when you lose Andrea Mitchell, boy, you lose your core constituency, I'll tell you that. I mean, there's good news for the president. Let's be honest about the good news. The VA debacle and the IRS, my computer ate my homework, and Benghazi and the release of the 5 Taliban all-stars, all that stuff is off the front page, and we're actually talking about whether the president should have played pool or not. Visuals are bad, but I guess it's all relative. I think the Obama White House would much rather be dealing with the perception of him playing pool while there's a crisis on the border right real near to him, rather than have to deal with the other scandals that have occurred the last 3 or 4 weeks.
By the way, Christopher, is it strange or out of the ordinary for the White House to call a Democratic congressman, if the president's a Democrat, as in this case? Congressman Cuellar said this morning that he's been called by the White House for speaking out against the Obama administration's handling of this whole crisis. He wouldn't say who called him, but he did say that he was told basically to pipe down. Is that acceptable behavior on the part of the White House?
I think the congressman's exaggerating.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Look, political aides will always call someone if they have issues with their bosses, and they'll try to find out what those issues are. If this congressman wants to make it more than it is, look, he's a congressman who lives in a district, who inhabits a district where it's not always going to be great for him to be with the president, whether he's a Democrat or not. So he's doing what he needs to do politically, and that's fine. That's the game that's played in Washington, played on both sides of the aisle.
All right, let me ask you, Edward. Chris made reference to the fact that the Congress needs to give the president his $3.75 or $4 billion for judges and more housing for these illegals. The fact of the matter is that they don't need more judges because these people don't show up for hearings. About 90% of them, once they're given their notice, they disappear and we never hear from them again.
Well, let's talk about why we have this problem now. It's a predictable problem. I mean, long ago, the president signed on with the amnesty groups, open border groups, and so what in rational thinking, what did he think would happen? So what we end up with is a crisis down there. It's something that was predictable based upon the policy, and so now what he's asking for is not $1 of true enforcement of trying to protect our national interest and slowing the immigration, illegal immigration down. We're not dealing with this on a foreign affairs standpoint. There are countries in Central America that there needs to be engagement. Instead of the president playing pool or warning the poor Democratic congressman who is upset with him about playing pool, probably got threatened with an IRS audit. But the bottom line of it is that they should be having conversations, and long ago, with foreign governments, of people who are now wanting to come up and make the long haul. Look, when you hold up a welcome sign at the border and you don't say cross at your own risk, you say welcome, come aboard, because we're going to give you everything under the sun and far better than wherever you were. You know what? There is something wrong about that. We have an obligation to the current citizens of these United States to protect our border from illegal immigration.
Right. Christopher, you believe in an open border policy?
I don't believe in an open border policy, but I think these people are escaping tyranny the same way my family escaped tyranny in Nazi Germany and fascist Italy.
Really? Ho, time out. Your family, these kids, wait, I got a question for you. These kids are the same as your family who escaped Nazi Germany?
Absolutely.
Really? They're being thrown in ovens? Really? Wow, that is amazing.
I don't know why the Malzbergs came here, but they're the same as your family. And what happens is we get here.
Hey, you don't know anything about my family, okay? My family didn't come here to escape the Holocaust, so you're making a wrong assumption in the first place, but go ahead.
I don't know where your family came from.
Right, so you should shut up about it because you don't know. So go ahead.
Well, everybody came to America for the same reason, Steve, and that's for a better life. And these people are coming to America for the same reason countless generations who came before them.
No, you specifically said that they came here like the people escaping the Nazis. How dare you say something like that, Christopher?
Right now.
All right, we're coming back with the panel. Christopher Hahn and Edward Peswali. Don't go away.
Now everyone who uses catheters can get a better catheter with Liberator Medical's free catheter sample pack. These new catheters are better than ever, easier to use, more convenient, comfortable, virtually pain-free. Don't wait. Call now and get your free catheter sample pack. There's the all-new compact catheter for women, pre-lubricated, no drips, no mess, fits in your purse. The self-lubricated catheter, it lubricates itself in the package, comfortable, no mess. The closed system catheter, pre-lubricated with its own collection bag, proven to reduce UTIs. The discreet pocket catheter, curved to fit in your pocket to go anywhere. The polished eyelet catheter for micro-smooth comfort, reduces friction and pain. Call now. We'll also bill Medicare and your insurance for you. Call for your free catheter sample pack with free shipping. Call Liberator Medical.
Call 1-800-344-6777. That's 1-800-344-6777.
Meet John and Nancy. Like many people, John and Nancy have spent their whole lives working hard, saving their money and investing wisely, knowing that it would pay off in the end. But the reality is, today's world is not the same as it was. John and Nancy's stocks have taken them on a serious roller coaster ride, and it's all but destroyed their retirement funds. Their house is not even close to being worth what they paid, and to boot, their middle-class paychecks no longer cover their costs. All that hard work and smart investing has gotten them nowhere. In fact, they are no longer thinking about when they will retire, they're wondering if they'll retire. Then one day, John and Nancy heard about a man named Tom Hutchison, a veteran of Wall Street for over 2 decades. Tom noticed that the wealthy invested differently than normal people, and their methods seemed to be a secret they didn't want to share. So Tom left his job, compiled the strategies, and published them in the controversial book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns. John and Nancy immediately picked up a copy, began investing, and never looked back. Thanks to Powerful Secrets, John and Nancy now have investments that pay up to 20% a year. They learned about unique tax-advantaged investments, and their favorite chapter revealed a strategy that anyone can use to turn $50,000 into $1 million. Now, John and Nancy have control of their financial future in this new reality, and they have peace of mind about their investments that they never had before. Best of all, they are back on track to a secure retirement. To get your free copy of the book, Powerful Secrets to Achieve Superior Returns, simply visit www.myfinancialage.org.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki had stern words for Kurdish leadership. Al-Maliki accused the Kurdish region of Iraq for being a haven for Sunni militants invading the country in a televised address today. Kurds in Iraq govern themselves independently. Their own security forces continue to engage in Islamic State militants in the region. Meanwhile, Iraq's special forces hunt for Sunni militants in their country. Troops intensified their search for Samarra today. The city is home to cherished Shia shrine. The Islamic State maintains a strong hold in northern Iraq and parts of Syria. The fight is being called Iraq's worst crisis. American troops withdrew in 2011. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to the Steve Malzberg Show.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, what you were looking at there reportedly is Arabs celebrating as they flocked to the Temple Mount yesterday afternoon to celebrate the barrage of rockets raining down on Israel. This is very problematic, and what's more problematic is the media coverage of this whole situation, as I've alluded to over the course of this show, and as I have been alluding to for years, if not a couple of decades at least. The media coverage of Israel, the double standard for Israel when it comes to fighting the terrorists that blow them up and want to kill them and want to destroy their country. Now, I want you to watch this. This is really curious. Watch this.
Islamic militant group Hamas is now vowing revenge for the deaths of 7 of its members in an airstrike. Israel says it carried out airstrikes on at least 14 so-called terror sites.
So-called terror sites? First of all, Natalie Morales called them militants. Militants. A study by our friends at the Media Research Center shows that ABC, NBC, and CBS calls Hamas recognized as a terror group by their own government, okay, by the United States of America. and by Israel and by a lot of people in the world, yet the three networks call them militants or fighters as opposed to terrorists. Want to explain that one to me? She just called them militants, and she's quoting Israel, who said that they struck, this is a couple days ago, struck terror sites inside Gaza as so-called terror sites. So-called? What's the implication of using a term like so-called? This is just what it's all about. This is how it's done. Now, I was watching Erin Burnett on CNN. You know Erin Burnett? The one who called George W. Bush a monkey when she was on CNBC? That was so funny, by the way. Did I tell you how much I laughed when she called George W. Bush a monkey? That was great, wasn't it? Erin Burnett asked with a straight face and a serious, serious eye the ambassador to the United States from Israel, who explained why the Palestinians put their rocket launchers, their rockets, their bombs in hospitals, in mosques, in kindergarten classrooms, on rooftops that house civilians to make it hard for Israel to hit, and that's why civilians get killed. Erin Burnett said, well, I understand that, and they understand that the rockets are falling into Israel and civilians have to go to shelters to save their lives, but is it worth hitting those rocket launchers if it means that they may kill Palestinian civilians? And she asked that with a straight face. It was the same mouth and face that called George W. Bush a monkey, but she asked this one with a straight face. Can you imagine that? What if Erin Burnett's new child and family was under rocket attack from Mexico, Canada? I use those two countries because, you know, where else are we going to be under direct rocket attack over the border like Israel is with Gaza? Would Erin Burnett say, gee, I know I'm in the bomb shelter with my newborn baby and husband, but I hope the U.S. doesn't retaliate if it means we might kill a civilian, even though it would stop the bombing and we could live a normal life and my baby and I won't be under threat of getting killed. Gee, I hope Obama doesn't bomb them if it means maybe killing a civilian. Would Erin Burnett say that? I don't think so. We're coming back, ladies and gentlemen, with our road to... no, what am I saying? We're coming back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. But first, this hour's American Moment. And you know what we're doing? We're taking a look back at the day that John Wayne won the Oscar.
It was a night filled with stars as Hollywood came out in strength to honor its own at the 42nd Academy Awards. Nominated for Best Actor that year were Dustin Hoffman, Jon Voight, Richard Burton, Peter O'Toole, and John Wayne. Born Marion Morrison in Winterset, Iowa, even at birth, the future movie icon was breaking records, weighing in at 13 pounds. After graduating from USC on a football scholarship, this young man became an aspiring actor, changed his name to John Wayne, and the rest became box office history. A veteran of some 150 films, Wayne received his first Best Actor Award nomination in 1939 for his role in The Sands of Iwo Jima. It would take more than 3 decades later, until April 7, 1970, before the Academy honored him once again. But this time, he won the Best Actor Award for his role as a one-eyed sheriff in True Grit.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think this is a great country.
Actress Maureen O'Hara, when asked to describe her friend, summed up the man best with 3 words: John Wayne, American. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Those struggling with their weight know that it goes beyond willpower.
I wish I wasn't still hungry.
Is this enough?
It's late, and I'm still hungry.
Weight loss is not just about willpower. While we have different triggers, we face similar challenges.
Am I full?
Do I want more?
Have I had enough?
Maybe it's time to try Belviq. Belviq is FDA approved for weight loss in adults who are overweight with at least one weight-related medical condition or obese. When used with diet and exercise, Belviq can help you lose weight and keep it off. Belviq works by activating receptors in your brain that are believed to cause you to feel full. For some people, this means that they can eat less.
I've had enough.
Being overweight can carry health risks like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. If you are overweight with any of these conditions or obese, Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Do not take Belviq if you're pregnant, planning to be, or nursing. Before taking Belviq, tell your doctor if you take medicines for depression, migraines, mental problems, or a cold, as these medicines with Belviq may cause serious or life-threatening side effects. Call your doctor if you have confusion, sweating, fever, or stiff muscles. Some people taking medicines like Belviq have had heart valve problems. Call your doctor if you have trouble breathing, swelling, dizziness, fatigue, or a regular heartbeat. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery until you know how Belviq affects you. High doses may cause mental problems. Talk to your doctor if you become depressed or have thoughts of suicide. In patients with type 2 diabetes, weight loss may cause low blood sugar. Stop taking Belviq and tell your doctor if you have prolonged erections or your breasts begin to make milk or increase in size. Belviq may decrease blood cell count. Common side effects include headache, dizziness, fatigue, nausea, dry mouth, constipation, back pain, and cough. Belviq may help you lose weight and keep it off. Talk to your doctor about Belviq. To get your 15-day free trial offer, call 800-798-5943 or visit startbelviqnow.com today.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic. Some will never return. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
Let me end tonight with this strange absence of a challenger to Hillary Clinton. I'm not talking about a Democrat contesting her in the primaries. That's a situation I don't expect to persist. I think real candidates on the Democratic side will come forward to give her a run for it. I think Mitt Romney is thinking about this every day, thinking about how close he came in 12, how close he could be to winning in 16. I think Mitt will run for the same reason Hillary Clinton will run. You don't go this far and stop.
All right, folks, I don't know about that, but joining us now to talk about, Hillary and a bunch of other things is liberal columnist, syndicated political cartoonist, and author Ted Rall. Hey, Ted.
Hey, Steve.
Good to talk to you. Good to see you. So let's talk about Hillary, and let's talk about the Democratic Party. You wrote a piece talking at Rall.com, your website, talking about how progressives need to, as you put it, grow a pair and stop having anything to do with the Democratic Party. Now, it's interesting because I had a great conversation about progressives yesterday, and there's a great book out there called Liberal Fascism, which really, in my view, defines who progressives are, who they have always been, and what do you define as a progressive?
Well, I think that people on the right and the author of that book have a different definition of perhaps...
Jonah Goldberg, but go ahead.
Right. They have different definitions of progressivism than most Democrats and progressives do. But progressive Democrats are basically the liberal wing of the Democratic Party, the McGovern Democrats, the people who still kind of believe the Democratic Party lost its way after the Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton years, the DLC influenced Dick Morris triangulation period centered around the Southern Democratic governors kind of approach that started with Jimmy Carter. These are people who are very pro-union, pro-labor, for whom environmentalism, women's rights are very important, but as opposed to the identity politics liberals that dominate the party today and are more concerned about things like gay rights and marriage equality, these are more old-fashioned liberals who are concerned about what's in your wallet, the income inequality, poverty, class issues, the growing gap between rich and poor, militarism, wars of choice. Those are the kinds of things that most progressives sort of sets them apart from the mainstream Barack Obama wing of the Democratic Party.
And you know, it's interesting you say that, because I don't think there's anything mainstream. I mean, in and of itself, you might consider the Democratic Party that to be the mainstream wing of it. But on issue after issue, policy after policy, the nation disagrees with Barack Obama on policy. Not only believes he's not trustworthy and they say that he's doing a bad job, but they feel that the next presidential candidate needs to have policies that differ from this president. So you call him, I mean, I would say he's at least your definition of progressive. I mean, all he does is demagogue the supposed wage inequality, and you didn't build that, and we're going to spread the wealth around, and you don't think he's progressive? You put him in the same category as Hillary Clinton?
In many ways, they have a lot in common. Yes, he absolutely talks a good game about the 1% versus the 99%, but there's no delivery there. I mean, after the 2008 economic collapse, that's the event that should have been Obama's 9/11, that should have defined his presidency. And instead, he turned over the economy to Goldman Sachs and Wall Street, and thus inspired the Occupy movement. I mean, let's not forget that after Obama came to power, he inspired the Tea Party on the right, but he also inspired Occupy on the left. There is a critique of Obama that comes from the left as well, and that is every bit as angry as what is on the right. And in some cases, there's kind of a crossover, and I hope we get to talk a little bit about Rand Paul as in conjunction with 2016, because I think he's a really interesting example of that crossover. I mean, the critique on the left is particularly related to foreign policy. The involvement in Libya and Syria makes progressives very uncomfortable. We don't like that. We didn't like the surge in Iraq. We don't like the troops that are going back to Iraq now. We don't like the involvement in Afghanistan. We don't like Guantanamo still being open. We don't like the NSA spying that Obama ratcheted up. We don't like the drone wars that he radically expanded over Bush.
Let me ask you a question, and you've been, not to interrupt, I get the picture, and you've been very critical of the press, and I do want to get to Rand Paul. In the previous hour on our segment Road to the White House, we talked at length about Rand Paul and his possible candidacy, so I do want to go there with you. But the media, you know, when it was George Bush doing some of these things, you know, the media and the left, the activists, they called him, the media didn't call him a murderer, but the left called him a murderer and every other name in the book. The media killed him. Where's the media criticism? Where are your leftist friends now going after Barack Obama for more drone use, more targeted killings, et cetera, than Bush has ever did before? Where are they all?
Well, they're not on MSNBC. You know, I mean, people like me don't get invited on MSNBC for a reason.
So we have a lot in common.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying, it's you know, Rachel Maddow had to move way to the right. She had to become a militant Democrat in order to join MSNBC. Al Sharpton had to become a militant Democrat to join MSNBC and abandoned his progressive roots. So in order to join, I mean, if that clip from Chris Matthews that you played at the top of the show kind of indicates that. I mean, you know, let's not conflate the left and the Democrats. The Democrats are ignoring the left. That was the topic of my column that you referred to, and the left is very angry at the Democratic Party. We're very marginalized, even though we're the base of the Democratic Party.
So there's no left in the media. So there's no left in the media. There's no left on MSNBC. You would call the folks on MSNBC what? I mean,
Democrats. They're Democrats. I mean, look, there's a wide range of political opinions in the United States that are not reflected in the mainstream media, and that includes on the right. You know, I mean, libertarianism until pre-Rand Paul was basically not allowed to have a voice even on Fox News, and so I mean so we have the Democrats and the Republicans are very close together on a lot of issues. I mean, you know, I can go through them. For example, free trade. Most Americans don't like these free trade agreements, and that includes both liberals and conservatives, but both major parties are in favor of them. But the critiques come from their left and from the right for nationalistic reasons, patriotic reasons, and also on the left because of what it's doing to drive down wages and hurt workers.
All right, but I want to get to Rand Paul next, but one more question on the media here. So the same media that took George W. Bush to task for lesser things in certain respects, when Obama does them, they're silent, and that's why?
I agree with your critique 100%. It's disgusting. And many people on the left find it repugnant that the mainstream media is so pro-democratic, and they don't criticize Obama for doing many of the same things that Bush did, and worse. I mean, the drones, NSA, he's much worse on those things. And Guantanamo, I mean, come on. He's still blaming Republicans for that all these years later. It's ridiculous.
All right, let's talk about Rand Paul. What's obviously a libertarian, obviously out of sync with many in his party on foreign policy and some other issues, but still gets very high marks when it comes to the preliminary polls, and is a serious contender for the presidency, or at least the Republican nomination at this point. What's your take on Rand Paul?
I think Rand Paul is underestimated. Right now, if I had money to put down in the Iowa straw poll, I would put it on Rand to win in November against Hillary. Now, of course, it's an eternity between now and November 2016, or for that matter, between now and the two conventions in the summer of 16. But right now, I think it would be hard to beat Rand. I think he hits a sweet spot that Republicans are not thinking about. A lot of Democrats, a lot of liberals, a lot of progressives really dislike Hillary Clinton. They don't like her, the fact that she's in the pockets of Wall Street and Goldman Sachs.
Let me ask you, because of time. You don't like her. I get that impression.
A lot of people don't.
Right. Okay, but would you vote for Rand Paul?
He's the first Republican that I've ever considered voting for. But what I was going to say is that the factor that's important for Rand is not so much Democrats voting for him. It's more, although that could happen with the under 30 crowd. But what could happen is a lot of Democrats might stay home and sit on their hands, which would still have the effect of helping Rand Paul. I mean, if you nominate Jeb Bush, you're going to get a lot more Democrats voting against Jeb Bush than you will get voting against Rand Paul. On the left, we're not afraid of Rand, but we would be disgusted by a third Bush presidency.
And you would like to see, we have no time, but just basically a yes or no, Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders run against Hillary?
It's a waste. Elizabeth Warren isn't running. Bernie Sanders would run a poorly funded, symbolic...
Then can anybody run against Hillary on the Democrat side?
At this point, there's no chance.
All right. Hey, Ted, great to talk to you, sir. We'll have you back soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Ted Rall, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back, more interesting. It's called Give Me Five, You Know It, You Love It, and it's next on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television.
Do you own mutual funds? You may be paying fees and costs of up to 5% and not even know it. Fisher Investments isn't a mutual fund, and we don't have hidden fees. Do you own an annuity? Your broker may have made a commission of 8% or more when he sold it to you. Are you sure he had your best interests in mind? At Fisher Investments, we're not brokers, and we don't earn commissions on trades or by selling you products. With our model, as your portfolio grows, we grow.
To learn more about the Fisher Investments difference, call the number on your screen now. We'll send you our free DVD, Investing Secrets for 2014, and our special report, The 8 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make. Plus, the first 100 callers get a free 1-year subscription to Fisher Investments Stock Market Outlook, with insights from our company founder and respected market forecaster, Ken Fisher. Be prepared in 2014. Call now, 1-800-575-0066. 1-800-575-0066.
Are you feeling tired, run down, low on energy? Well, you could be just like millions of Americans whose thyroid gland isn't functioning the way it's supposed to. Well, now there's hope to change all of that. Introducing Actilin. Actilin is a premium nutritional supplement designed to support optimal thyroid function. Actilin has 17 powerful ingredients that support adrenal health, thyroid function, energy, and your immune system. Actilin was formulated by the renowned holistic practitioner, Dr. David Brownstein. And now, for a limited time, you can get a free bottle of Actilin with our special offer. You pay only for shipping and handling. Act right now and get Dr. Brownstein's free special report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Thyroid. Get Actilin and the special report. Sign up today at getactilin.com. That's getactilin.com. Or call us at the number below.
Get ready, America! The Affordable Health Care Act is here, and it's got everyone asking, how do I find affordable health insurance that's right for me? The answer is simpler than you think. Pick up the phone and call I Can Benefit right now. Waiting for you is a team of licensed insurance agents who understand healthcare reform and can help you find the right plan to take care of you and your family's health, because nothing is more important. Have you been denied in the past? I have. Struggling to pay high premiums? Join the hundreds of thousands of callers just like you and let us help you find a plan that works for you and your budget. But I'm not stopping there. Call now and receive your free ICANN prescription savings card. Save up to 85% on prescription medications at over 60,000 pharmacies nationwide. Don't wait. Call now and get the answers you deserve and a price you'll love.
Call toll-free 1-800-426-2983. That's 1-800-426-2983. Call now.
Time to wake up. I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Don't forget, you've got a job to do today.
Hey, Mom. I got the job. Thanks. Got the job. Welcome aboard.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
It should be pretty appalling that a foreign government would be engaged in trying to affect an election and or the position of a United States Senator. And if that can happen, then I think there's real consequences for our democracy. So I hope that the authorities will investigate and come to the bottom of who was engaged.
All right, folks, welcome to Gimme 5. This is a strange story, to say the least. That's Senator Bob Menendez from the great state of New Jersey. And if you recall, there's an investigation ongoing, story that came out about a year ago of him being involved in all kinds of shenanigans, underage prostitutes, this and that. He's now claiming, kind of, claiming that the Cuban government may have planted these stories to try to end his political career, because they came out as he was running for re-election for the U.S. Senate from the state of New Jersey. Now, while he's not making a direct accusation, as you'll see here, as Dana Bash tries to question him further and does question him further, tries to get more information, tries to get him to commit more, he doesn't. So the whole thing is kind of bizarre to imply that the Castro government and Castro regime would consider him important enough to get out of politics, even though he's a staunch anti-Castro politician and has been, and I give him credit for that. Here's more.
Is that what you think happened, that you are somebody of Cuban descent? You have not ever made it a secret, your opposition to the Cuban government. You were about to become the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee, and do you think that's what it was?
Well, let's put it this way. For 22 years between the House and the Senate, I have had a firm position in opposition to the Cuban regime that violates the human rights, the democracy of the people of Cuba. I have been outspoken in that regard, and I wouldn't be surprised that the regime would do anything it can to stop me from being in a position that ultimately would impede their hopes of being able to get a different relationship with the United States based upon their interests, but not the interests of the Cuban people.
I mean, it doesn't sound all that far-fetched. Again, I could see Cuba interested in that, but to say that this newspaper, which broke the story back about a year ago, would take a story from the Cuban government and go with it, knowing that it was false? Now, where's the proof? Is there any proof here? And Dana Bash tries to get to that aspect of this claim by Senator Menendez, actually to find out exactly what it is he's claiming. Watch.
Now, you aren't at liberty to talk about the letter that your lawyer wrote to the FBI, but you're in the proof business. I mean, I'm sure that if you're probing anybody in a hearing, you would want information and proof. Do you have proof? Do you have solid proof of this?
Look, it seems to me that based upon what the Post's sources are, that it's the government that has the proof. And it seems to me that the government should ultimately, internally, review what its sources are, from whence it got this information, and what have they done about it.
All right, so the Washington Post wrote a story about this, and he's saying the government has the proof. Kind of bizarre. Here's more.
The government has, but do you all have as well?
The government is the one in possession, according to the Post article. As far as I'm concerned, it's the government that should produce the information that they supposedly have within their own agencies.
All right, I mean, she's trying here, but it's kind of bizarre, is it not? I mean, he's claiming, I guess based on a Washington Post story, that the Canadian, the Castro government could have been responsible for all of his problems, for the investigation, for planting a story in the U.S. media. And now he's making this claim based on a Washington Post story. And but he's not willing to say if he has proof. He's saying instead the government has this proof. Well, and he's calling on the government to show what they have and show the proof based on a story in the Washington Post. The whole thing is a little far-fetched, a little bit too far ahead of itself for me. It might prove to be true, but come to the microphone with the proof and then make the claim on the Steve Malzberg Show.